Yes, it is that time again. Captain's Cast. Welcome, Captain's Cast, on the Swords and Starships Network. I am your host, Captain Garrett. Welcome to another Sunday night of the cutting edge of reviews and critique of all things nerd culture, comic book movies, sci-fi, fantasy, swords, and starships. So yes, we have a lot to discuss. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is the perfect example, I think, of the trick that is being played on our poor normie friends, our poor, hapless blue pills, as I, your dear humble captain, once was. The trick that is being played on them, I find it egregious. It is a crime against humanity. I will explain. I was very conflicted as I was watching this film. I was watching the movie and I thought, this is not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And at the same time, so much worse. I don't know. I really, as I'm watching a film, I don't know what to think about this. I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can. Your captain is nothing, if not fair. Stern, strict, runs a tight ship, but fair. So we'll get into that. Also, I have watched, because, I'm a glutton for punishment, I watched the next episode of Secret Invasion. Oh my god. I can't even. What's worse, The Mandalorian or this show? They have a lot in common, actually. Mandalorian Season 3 and Secret Invasion. I will explain. And hey, I popped over to Silo, finished that up. I figured, I should have something good to tell you. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I have something good to tell you. You'll just have to wait and see. And but there are a couple of signs of cracks in the dam. Preparing captain's chair. And greetings, Star Fury. Greetings. How are you? Greetings to all in the chat. Hopefully we'll see Silverback, Erigmar, Fu Man Blue. If not, catch you on the restream. Star Fury says, "Why be fair? They haven't earned it." That is an excellent question. Why be fair to Disney or these soulless corporations that have gutted every character that we love, and they've done this to us again and again and again? Why should I sit at a theater and give them a fair shake? Well, it's actually not for them. It's for myself. It's for myself and it's for you. Because for the benefit of the audience, because if you go into something with a preconceived notion, if you go into something with bias, right, you are, rather than actually taking in what you're seeing, you are mentally commenting on it as you're watching it. And I can't avoid all of that, but I try not to. Why? Because I want to actually respond to what is there, to what is really, truly there. And so it's not so much that I'm trying to be fair. I mean, I did say I was trying to be fair. I mean fair in the sense of open-minded. Open-minded to just take it in and then give an honest reaction. But my expectation was not that I was going to be surprised. The plot leaks on this. So, spoiler alert, your captain is going to spoil the shit out of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Because I just don't have the patience. I just don't have the patience to dance around this stupid story. I'm just going to explain it. And but I don't even have to, because the plot leaks were dead on accurate. They were dead on accurate. Not the first plot leak that was like that he gets erased from time. That wasn't accurate. It was the more recent one. Dead on accurate. In fact, it was almost, I was like, yeah, I know exactly what's about to happen. I was just waiting for it to happen. And it's as bad as you would imagine that it is. So we will get into that. We will get into all of it. Uh, why don't we just jump right into my review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? So I'm watching this film, and I'm kind of expecting, if you watched my previous streams, I'm kind of expecting that I am going to hate every action scene in this movie. I am just preparing mentally for how bored I'm going to be in every action scene. And to my surprise, I often wasn't it wasn't terrible. I wasn't like it wasn't like Quantum Mania where I'm just like squirming in my chair like, "Oh god, I can't take any more of these stupid ants climbing over the hill and the beams coming from Kang." It's like, who cares? It wasn't quite that bad, but it was also not at all moving or interesting. It was, and this is what's interesting to me. I assiduously avoided as much commentary on this movie as possible until I could see it. But I did hear snippets, and one of the snippets I was hearing, even from people who hate it, was that the first 20 minutes of this movie are like the only good part. That this is a good part, it's because it's back in time, and it's Indiana Jones as his younger self, de-aged, and he's having a good old-fashioned caper with the Nazis. By the way, did you know there's Nazis in this? Did you know that guy's a Nazi? He's a Nazi. That guy's a Nazi. And I've just been demonetized. But my point is, this movie uses that where I was gonna say the N-word, but I was like, it's the other one. It's not, they use the word Nazi like a cudgel in this movie. It is the only word they have to describe the villains at all times, and they say it about 5 times a scene. And it just reminds me what historical illiterates these people are. Because of like, if there were any nuance whatsoever to their understanding of history, they might point out something else, such as, oh, he's a member of the SS, or this, but they don't know any of that. All they know is their favorite word in the English language. It's their favorite word. And they spam it in every single scene. Anyway, so he's having a good old-fashioned... Oh, I mean, I will say, like, the idea of him battling it out with the Germans on the train is pretty fun, except it becomes increasingly awkward and uncomfortable to look at this CGI Indiana Jones, and his eyes were weird. He kind of had this... Like, his eyes would... like almost like there's a lag in the tracking of the eye movements, and I'm like, you know what? This is taking me out of it. This is not real. He's not really this age. He's not really there. I know that I'm looking at CGI Harrison Ford. It's weird. It's creepy. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I can't even... Should we be doing this? Like, as a culture, should we be doing any more of this? I think we should stop doing this. This is becoming unhealthy. This obsession we have with digging into the past, and now we have the power to simply recreate it. And I suppose one part of me is like, well, CGI, that's not something that you could have done in a Greek tragedy 2,000 years ago. I mean, storytelling evolves with the times, but I suppose it's the psychology of it I find disturbing. It's like, I miss Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'd like to see a new Raiders of the Lost Ark with the same actor at the same age, but I can't because we're mortals. We age, time goes by, and things end. And for some reason, we now live in a world where nothing has to end. Harrison Ford can come back just like you remember. He can be exactly what he was before, and we can just pretend that we're watching a new movie where he's fighting the Nazis on a train just like he always did before. By the way, that guy's a Nazi! Nazi! There's a Nazi in this movie. Anyway, there's more than one. And I just don't want you to forget, dear viewer. They're fighting Nazis in this movie. And Harrison Ford, he had his day. Sadly enough, this film kind of makes that... it actually makes that point. Those times came and went, as Indiana Jones himself says in this movie, and I think maybe there's just a benefit to accepting that the past is the past. So I didn't like the first 20 minutes. At first I was liking it, and then the more I saw the de-aged Harrison Ford in the uncanny valley, I was like, you know what? I can't even follow this scene anymore. And the CGI was fake as hell. And I went with, see, I needed to bring a normie because I need the normie perspective. So I had mom tag along. Oh, dear old mom. She joined me. I'm in her basement right now. And I thought, when I get out of this movie, I'm not going to say anything about it. No comment whatsoever. I'm just going to ask for her opinion because she's not into all this stuff. I just want someone who is totally unbiased, who hasn't been following this world. What does she think about it? Anyway, as I'm watching the movie, she turned to me and said, "This looks fake as hell." I was like, there you have it from the mouths of babes. It's then it moves into 1969, and then it becomes a very different film. So I'm watching this, and there's a scene here and there. There's like a scene where they're diving for a Roman shipwreck, and it was actually pretty cool, I have to say. It was like they're dropping down continental shelves. Antonio Banderas is there for some reason, and then they're kind of like digging through a Roman shipwreck of an old trireme. And I thought, now that's pretty cool. That's something I haven't seen before. And this got me thinking, maybe I'm just biased. Maybe I'm just bigoted against this movie because I'm so jaded about it. And so I walked out of the theater. I get this feeling often, actually. I walk out of the theater and I just have no immediate opinion. I'm like, was that good? Was that not good? I mean, I didn't hate it. I certainly didn't love it. What do I honestly think about this? And I had to just marinate it. And so then I just started asking. I just decided I'm just going to ask questions. I asked my mom, I said, "What did you think of this movie?" And she said, "Oh, it was pretty good. It was all right. It was good." "What did you like about it?" "Oh, it was cool seeing Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones. He's pretty cool. I like him. That was cool." "What was your favorite scene?" I'd have to think about it. A favorite scene. Huh. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. "What did you think of Phoebe Waller-Bridge? Did you like her?" "Yeah, she was fine. I liked her. She was cool." "Did you like her character?" "Yeah, she was fine." "Would you ever see this movie again?" "No, probably not. Once is enough." Oh. Yeah, so I'm sitting there asking these questions, and then it occurs to me exactly what I think about it, and it just came tumbling out. What's there? What else did I ask her? What I had all my questions written down here. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Would you watch it again? And she basically said, "Well, I thought they did a good job of doing an Indiana Jones adventure, but obviously he's old. He's old." And yeah, I was thinking about the part where he says, everything hurts. I was like, that's true. Getting old, everything hurts. And because he's not like he used to be. And I thought to myself, how can I explain this in a way that will make it clear what the trick that has just been played? Because this is what I'm talking about. When I say that these movies play a trick on normies, this is the trick, right? Because she's thinking, I didn't hate it. There were some fun scenes. I guess everything was there. Wouldn't see it again. And so their thought is it was fine, right? But it's not fine. And this is exactly my point. And she's a huge Top Gun fan. So I said, I want you to imagine that Top Gun Maverick begins with Maverick, and he is in a Barca-lounger, he having passed out with a snifter of whiskey in his hand. He is a loser. He has been divorced. His son is dead, and he's given up flying planes. He doesn't want to fly planes anymore. Suddenly, his plucky goddaughter shows up, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and she is an ace pilot. And she has decided, because of course her father, let's just call him Goose, has trained her to be an ace pilot. And she comes to him and says, "Hey, Maverick, we have an important mission that we need you for. Let's go. One last triumph." And Maverick says, "No, I don't want to go. I don't like flying planes anymore." And tells her to piss off. But then she winds up creating a problem where he's going to be framed for, I don't know, some military theft or something. And so he has to go chasing her to Top Gun to clear his name. And so I start explaining. So it basically I just converted the Indiana Jones plot beats into Top Gun Maverick. And she was like, oh, that would have been awful. I'm like, exactly. Harrison Ford is a loser in this movie. He is, and here is the thing. I want to show you something. Erigmar is here. Erigmar, I have good news for you, sir. Erigmar in the chat. Your captain has been reading. I'm on chapter. This would be the Rifles Song, and this is by Black Knight, aka Erigmar, and I am on chapter 2, and he's just absolutely skewered a bunch of slavers on a desert planet, and I have to say I'm getting kind of Warhammer 40k vibes from your world. So that's you know what it reads like to me. It reads like a war book from Warhammer or a codex from Warhammer 40k. So it gives me that feeling, So anyhow, just thought I'd let you know. Thanks for popping in. Love to see you here. Hail the Iron Age, says Erigmar. Hail. Starfury says, have modern writers ever heard of the older mentor character? Because they could have used Indy as such as long as they have a likable protagonist. Erigmar says, it cannot be done by them since it requires imagination. You're exactly right. So here's what I'm going to show you. Now, I'm a great fan of Blake Snyder, the screenwriter, and his book, Save the Cat. And I've mentioned this before. In Save the Cat, he explains exactly how the Swiss watch of a story works. And in it, and if you're a writer, I recommend you get this book. In it, he gives you 12 genres for every movie, and each genre has a beat sheet. Now, these are not the traditional genres of like horror, science fiction, etc. This is his genre system of how to evaluate the actual story structure. So, Save the Cat genres. I should just have this bookmarked. Why? I mean, it's like, I'm probably going to explain this. Why do I always say 12? There's only 10. I always say 12 genres. 12 just, 12 apostles. It just seems right. So, where's my browser? Hang on. I've lost my browser. Try again. Hang on. Delay of game. Your captain apologizes. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, no. All right. Back to me while I sort through this. Actually, no, I can't do that because I have to be on this screen. There we go. Maybe that works. All right. I think I got it. There is the browser. All right. So you have obviously his version of horror is Monster in the House, right? Now, Indiana Jones is a Golden Fleece story. I'm talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade, right? Its name pays homage to the Greek myth of Jason and the Argonauts. It's usually a road trip, such as Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. However, sometimes the journey can be more of a spiritual one, Chariots of Fire, Bad News Bears. Golden Fleece stories contain a road, which can span oceans, time, or even down the street as long as growth occurs. It contains a team or a buddy, hello Marion, Raiders of the Lost Ark, which our hero needs to guide him or her along the way, and a prize, which is sought, and the Ark of the Covenant, which is primal, a return to home, a treasure, a regaining of one's birthright. Here are some examples of a Golden Fleece story: The Wizard of Oz, Paper Moon, Saving Private Ryan, Ocean's 11, Maria Full of Grace, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?, Reservoir Dogs, Tangled, Argo, Hell or High Water, and of course your captain's favorite, The Lord of the Rings. That may be the ode. That is the goat of all Golden Fleece stories, is Lord of the Rings, of course. Now, there is another genre, which is I'm a big fan of, by the way, but it is not the genre you were supposed to have with Indiana Jones. That would be dude with a problem. With the ordinary man or woman facing extraordinary circumstances, dude with a problem contains an innocent, someone who is unaware that he or she is being dragged into a dangerous world, such as a sudden event, which thrusts our hero into this world without warning, and a life or death battle in which the preservation of self, family, society, or world is crucial. Most dude with a problem stories end with a triumph of the spirit, while some do not. So his example is Triumph of the Spirit would be the movie Alive, while some do not. The Perfect Storm, for example. Dude with a problem examples: Open Water, Breakdown, which that's with Kurt Russell. That is a great movie from the 90s, but there's definitely a lot of sort of like city liberal fear of what country people are like in that movie. Anyway, Lorenzo's Oil, The Man Who Knew Too Much, North by Northwest, Sapphire, Taken would be a dude with a problem. The Hunger Games, Room, Drive, The Room. What is that? Surely you don't mean Tommy Wiseau, if I'm thinking of the right name. The Martian. Now, of course, my favorite dude with a problem story is Die Hard. Die Hard is the ultimate dude with a problem story. Now, why do I bring this up? Because I was trying to figure out what was wrong with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and I couldn't put my finger on it until I realized exactly what the problem was. The problem was this movie is Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Golden Fleece story, and Indiana Jones is just living in it. That's what this movie is. It is her Golden Fleece story, and she just needs to use him to get the thing that she needs to get the Dial of Destiny. Now, the movie tricks you, though, because you feel like, because the idea is this is actually an Indiana Jones Golden Fleece story. And if you're not watching for it, it will lull you. Not you, my dear viewers. Any sailors and starnauts on the Swords and Starships channel, please hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. You know damn well the trick that's being played on you, and you see right through it. But our normie blue pill friends, they don't. And so I'm trying to help them in case they stumble across this stream. Now, what is Indiana Jones's story in this? Indiana Jones, in this fifth adventure, has a dude with a problem story. And his problem is that he's in retirement. He wakes up from another drunken stupor on his Barcalounger to the sad reality that his son died in the Vietnam War. Spoiler! His son died in the Vietnam War, and Marion left him because the loss, as he puts it in the film, broke them. Why did his son join the Vietnam War? Was it to impress his father? No, corrects Indiana Jones to Phoebe Waller-Bridge. He joined to piss his father off because, of course, he hated his father, and he hated his father so much because his father's such an asshole that he joined the Vietnam War and got killed. And, of course, Harrison Ford, he hates the Vietnam War now, which is fine. Sidebar, I wonder when the woke writers that write this shit will transfer their hatred of useless wars like Vietnam or Iraq to a certain current proxy war, shall we say. Isn't it funny? Isn't that funny? Do these same woke writers want to protest against the Ukraine? Anyway, now what I'm trying to say is that he just wants to live his pathetic, sad retirement in peaceful, drunken aloneness when what should happen but a plucky, irritating, kind of bitchy, frankly, English woman strolls into his life, turns out to be his goddaughter he's forgotten, and she starts bugging him to dig through the university archives to find this treasure. And she opens by saying, I want you to come on one final adventure with me. And he says, why would I do that? This is an important point of the film. I'm sitting here listening to this conversation where she's trying to persuade him to go on an adventure to recover the dial. And he says, I don't want to do it. No, why would I do that? And she's like, I'm not doing a very good job of persuading you, am I? And I can't help but think, my God, this woman's forehead. It is freaking huge. It's like, well, I'm not doing a very good job, am I? And I'm just like, and then she's got a mole, and I'm like, mole, mole. And I couldn't help but think, why is Indiana Jones so freaking bored with the idea of archaeology? Why is he so bored of that? Why is he so unhappy about the idea of archaeology? Oh, because his son died and Marion left. Fine. But she can't even pique his curiosity. She can't. She can't even get him a little interested. No, she can't. But that's not even why she's there, because the movie immediately undoes this and reveals that it's totally a con. She never had any intention of recovering it for him. She had no intention of going on an adventure with him. She just needed him to give her access to the museum, not the museum, the university storehouse of treasures, so she could steal it. And then there is a dumb action scene where Schmidt, who is played by the magnificent Mads Mikkelsen, who is the villain in the film, he's a Nazi. He's a Nazi. Did you know that? And he has a couple of goons that are working for him. It's very, I have to say, the way they introduce this group of characters is one of the most confusing introductions. There's a CIA agent, and she is portrayed as absolutely virtuous and beyond all reproach, but she's working with like these 3 or 4 psychopath mercenaries that work for Schmidt, who also is working for the government to build the rockets that got us to the moon. And so to keep him happy, they're allowing him to pursue this Dial of Destiny thing, but he doesn't really plan on actually finding the Dial of Destiny for the government. He actually wants it for himself so he can change time. And the CIA agent is supposed to be keeping an eye on his goons, but then they start shooting professors because they don't want any witnesses, and she gets very mad about that, and she has very strong words for them about that. But she continues to help them, but she's also very interested in saving lives and helping people. And I'm like, what? Why is she this virtuous, pure as the wind-driven snow, beyond all moral reproach CIA agent just continuing to pal around with this evil Nazi and his 3 mercenary thugs, who, of course, are white and have a southern accent? And did you know there's Nazis in the movie? There's Nazis in this. And they're Nazis, and because they're Nazis, they're very bad, and because they're bad, they're Nazis. That is the absolute depths of the nuance and the complexity of this story. So now I will say the one good part of this movie, the only part of it that I enjoyed, was Mads Mikkelsen as Schmidt, who is the evil Nazi. He's a Nazi, by the way, and he's trying to get the Dial of Destiny so he can go back in time and fix all of Hitler's mistakes. And his lines, his dialogue were pretty interesting, and I could tell. See, this is why, because the wokies, the leftists, the weirdo Hollywood writers, they just have a Nazi fetish. They freaking love Nazis. They love the Nazis. They're their funnest thing to write about. That you could just tell the glee and the ghoulish delight that they have about writing Nazi characters. It's their favorite thing. They can't shut up about it. And so he happens to be the only character in the movie that's actually interesting to listen to when he's on screen. The problem is, then the movie moves on to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, the forehead. Oh, well, you see, I stole it, and then you stole it. It's called capitalism, darling. And why are these virtuous CIA agents who would never harm a fly, why are they working with these evil thugs? So it's very confusing. We have every action scene in this movie is CGI, volume. Now, the car chase in Egypt is one of them. It is an absolute mess. That scene, there are 3 parties involved. She's running from a mobster who's also like an incel jilted lover. At the same time, he wants to kill her for ripping him off. And there's also the CIA agents trying to flee with Schmidt. Or no, not the CIA. The mercenaries are trying to flee with Schmidt. And at the same time, you've got a bunch of other, like, there's other people that are bidding on the dial that are chasing them, and then she's trying to get the dial but then escape Indy while Indy is chasing her. Where do I even begin with this movie? The setup in this is so god-awful. Basically, I'm trying to figure out a good entry point for you on this. So in Act 1, she shows up. She needs to get the dial. The bad guys, Schmidt's goons, show up and they shoot the professors in the university because they just happen to stumble upon them rifling through Indy's things. And so a shootout ensues. Phoebe Waller-Bridge takes what she needs from Indy and runs. Indy is left with his dead colleagues on the floor at his office. He calls the police, leaving a bloody thumbprint just right there on the phone. And now he has inadvertently been framed for murder, right? So the whole impetus of the plot is that Indiana Jones must chase Phoebe Waller-Bridge around the world in order to drag her back to clear his name. By the way, they totally dropped that whole plot element about 40 minutes into the film. It just disappears. They never deal with it again. This whole idea that he's going to be framed for murder. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, see, this is not a Golden Fleece story. This is a dude with a problem story. And the problem is the forehead. The actual quest is Phoebe Waller-Bridge wants to get the Dial of Destiny. Now, why does she want to get it? My dear sailors of Stardust. She wants to get it so she can sell it to the highest bidder because cash is king. Also, she lectures Indiana Jones and wags her finger at him for being a grave robber. Just like my father, you're a grave robber. You're a grave robber. It's like, but he was at least delivering, and he points this out to her, but he was at least delivering the artifacts he was grave robbing and stealing to museums because he didn't want Nazis to steal them. So what is she doing? She's stealing things and selling them. She is a sociopath. This character is a sociopath. Helena is her stupid name. Helena, played by the forehead, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, is one of the most unlikable, bitchy, annoying, completely uninteresting characters. This movie, you can tell, this movie wants this to be her adventure so much. This movie wants her to be the next Indiana Jones so much. Let me explain something about Phoebe Waller-Bridge. There are plenty of women who can play a great action female hero. Gal Gadot is excellent as Wonder Woman. Gina Carano was excellent as a drop stormtrooper. What was she? A rebel drop trooper. You know, there are plenty of women. Sarah Ferguson is excellent in the Mission Impossible films as a counterpart super spy to Ethan Hunt's super spy. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is a nerd. Okay? She is a nerd. And no disrespect to nerds, I myself am a nerd. You don't see me trying to replace Indiana Jones as an action star. Okay? We all need to just stay at our lane here. She's gangly. She has bad posture. She's goofy looking. She runs weird. She has zero athletic ability. She's gangly, awkward, and nerdy. She's a dweeb. She's a dweeb. She thinks she's funnier than she is, which makes it even worse. And she is doing action sequences in this that are the least convincing I think I've ever seen. There is a scene in this in which she is trying to catch there's Nazis in this. The Nazis are in their Nazi plane because Nazis get in Nazi planes to Nazi, and they're flying. They're trying to take off in a storm with driving rain. She's got to chase down this plane, so she gets on a motorcycle and she's riding this motorcycle in the driving rain to catch this plane, and it's just it is all volume, it's all CGI, and I could not help it because I just recently watched all the Mission Impossibles again. I couldn't help but think about Tom Cruise's stunt in Mission Impossible 5, I believe it is. There is a cargo plane taking off in Russia, and they're trying to, stop it. They're trying to, remote lock it down so it can't take off because it's got the bad guy's weapon on it. And they can't stop it. So here comes Ethan Hunt running down the runway, and he says, "Can you open the door?" And Benji says, "Yeah, I think I can open the door." He's like, "Then open the door." And Tom Cruise, not thinking of anything else, Ethan Hunt, that is, grabs the plane, and he's holding on to it as it's taking off. Now, Tom Cruise actually did this stunt. And it makes my blood curdle every time I see it. It is so, it's like it's a nail biter, right? Because he's hanging onto this plane for dear life. Now that is thrilling. That is incredible to watch. Phoebe Waller-Bridge chasing this plane on a motorcycle in the volume, looking like a gangly, unathletic nerd. And by the way, her character's not a nerd in the movie, which is another mistake in this movie. It's unconvincing. It looks stupid. It's like she's not in any... There is no universe in which Phoebe Waller-Bridge is an action hero. None. It's never going to happen. There's frankly no universe where she is a charming, witty, likable, intelligent, nerdy character either. Now, what I thought she was going to be was kind of an archaeology nerd who winds up getting swept on this adventure with Indy, and I figured she just would be annoying because of all the feminist nonsense. But that actually turns out not to be the case. It turns out that they played her as a total con artist who is a sociopath, and the movie just decides when it needs to that now she has feelings and she's a good person. And we get all the way to the end of the movie. I'm now going to spoil the ending. So you have been warned, as Judge Dredd would say. Let me check in on the chat real quickly. Eric Mars says she is called Faline Cringity. Is that, you mean Kathleen Kennedy? Kathleen? Star Fury says, I'd call Kathleen Kennedy many things, but I'd start with the wonderful 4-letter word beginning. Oh, no. Oh, no, Star Fury. I can't read that. But I know it. Yeah, I agree with you, though. The Indy post-credit sequence, he's saying she's a see you next Tuesday. The Indy post-credit sequence, feds smash in his apartment door and shot him whilst trying to take him into custody. Yes. Wait, seriously? You're trolling. I didn't stay for the end credits. No chance. You couldn't have got me. Star Fury says Linda Hamilton. Yes, she was an amazing action star. Star Fury says, how dare you suggest practical special effects, you elitist? I am. Your captain is nothing if not an elitist snob. Snob, I tell you. There's no comparison. Like, do you know why I can see Tom Cruise hanging onto a plane and I feel physically terrified? Which is kind of a miracle when you think about it. It's not really happening. It's on a screen. It's a movie. It's not real. I can feel physically terrified watching him hang on to that plane. Now, how is that possible? It's possible because Tom Cruise is an actual professional. Tom Cruise is a craftsman with a work ethic. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is a gangly, nerdy, not that attractive, giant forehead, annoying little twit. And she does not do any of the work that he does, while demanding that she be praised because she's a whammon. Now, she can only pull off an action sequence in which everything is fake, none of it is really happening, she's doing none of the physical work, not a tenth of the physical work that Tom Cruise is doing. Frankly, probably not a tenth of the physical work that Harrison Ford did in the original Indiana Jones movies, and because of that, it shows. It's sloppy. It's crap. I feel nothing. I feel absolutely nothing. And the thing that pisses me off the most is that I could just hear feminist Twitter saying, oh, that's just because you don't like women. And it's like, no, when I see Gina Carano throw a roundhouse kick into a dude, I'm thinking that's going to sting. Put some ice on that. When I see, who was the other example that I gave that was like really good in an actual, Sarah Ferguson, she comes on the screen and she's flipping around in that silk dress. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's charismatic. She's charming. Something Phoebe Waller-Bridge knows nothing about. And you could just tell this film wants you to like her so much. I don't know why. What idiot thought it was going to be great? She was going to be likable because all she wants to do is steal the artifacts and sell them. She freaking leaves Indiana Jones, her godfather, on the hook for murder in the first act of the film. She's awful. She's a psychopath. I could not care about this bitch. I really couldn't. It's like, and the movie heaps so much of the heroism on her at the final act of the film. In the final act of the film, they travel back in time. They wind up, and this is important too, They wind up in ancient Greece where Archimedes is actually fighting his famous battle with the Roman triremes. Oh my god, how can I even describe how stupid everything in this scene is? But there was this briefest moment when I'm watching this scene and I'm thinking, wow, that's cool. Seeing the triremes firing, their catapults and I'm thinking this could be fun. It's amazing how much the CGI of it all ruins it. And how can I even describe this? All right, so Schmidt, the Nazi, he's a Nazi, and he and the other Nazis, because they're all Nazis. Did you know that? They're all in this plane together, and they what they don't understand is that they have not accounted for continental drift. And so instead of flying to 1939 Munich, they're flying to ancient Greece. They arrive in ancient Greece, and they see these triremes are firing at them. Now, this is a bomber. This is a 1940s bomber that is flying over an ancient Greek battle, okay? Now, a ballista shot pierces the hull of this bomber, right? And you see that there's a ballista stuck in the hull of the ship, right? And I'm thinking right there, immediately an anxiety as a viewer starts to set in, because I start to think, well, obviously they have to steer the plane out of the way out of the range. Gee, would it be that hard to get a 1940s bomber out of range of an ancient Greek ballista? Apparently it is, because you know what they do? They just keep flying through this. They literally are flying low over the Greek battle so that they're just getting pummeled by ballista shots and catapults, and the plane is getting torn apart. And what does the Southern accent speaking Nazi, what does he do? He freaking goes, oh, booyah, get some. And he goes and gets the machine gun and starts shooting at the ancient Greeks. And he's totally ignoring that the plane is going down the whole time. And then Schmidt, have you ever been at like a work environment that's a shit show where everyone is talking, but everyone is talking about something different and nobody's listening to each other and everything's going to shit and it's total chaos? That's what a lot of the action of this movie is. But this scene in particular, it's bizarre because it's like Schmidt is panicking because we're not in the 1940s. This isn't how this is supposed to go. Listen to me. Meanwhile, you've got Southern Nazis over there, and he's going, oh yeah, get some. And it's like, and then meanwhile, you've got Phoebe Waller-Bridge is trying to climb into the plane, and then you've got Indiana Jones, who's been shot in the shoulder and is like 80 years old, and he's been bleeding for hours at this point, and he's just chilling, and he's like, he's like Captain Picard in Picard. I think we're off here. I think I'll try to get up now, and it's like, idiots, all you have to do is fly the plane like 10 feet higher, and none of these ancient weapons will be able to touch you. But they don't. They just keep flying until literally the plane is destroyed by ancient Greek weapons. It's stupid. How could I even doubt myself? I walk out of this theater and I'm like, this movie, look, is it the most offensive thing I've ever seen? No, because a lot of it is just bland. It's just, it's bland. And, that's exactly what my mom said about it. She's like, well, it was something to do on a Saturday, but yeah, would I really go out of my way to see this? Honestly, no, I wouldn't have gone and seen it except that you invited me. And I was like, right. And that's a travesty. That is a travesty. For a character like Indiana Jones. This should have been a Golden Fleece story, and his nerdy goddaughter could have worked if she had been kind of a nerd who just wanted to go on an adventure with him and twist his arm a little bit, and he winds up, globe-trotting because he has to do one last important thing. And I have some thoughts about how you could have accomplished this, and it would have been great. And it could have still had the female goddaughter. You could have even kept, I hate it, but you could have even kept the fact that his son died in the Vietnam War. You tweak a couple of things, and this still could have been a great film. I still think there's no reason for it. I'm saying working with what we are given, there's no reason for this movie. It shouldn't exist. Ancient Greece should have been magical. It should have been a moment of awe. If they had given this just a few minutes of actual time to let it sink in that you are in ancient Greece and that Indiana Jones is exploring ancient Greece, my God, it could have been an amazing third act. It could have been incredible. Instead, we spend the whole scene staring at this fake CGI fissure in time floating. Oh, by the way, so the Dial of Destiny. Do you know how it works? It doesn't. Thank God, it's not actually a time machine. I am grateful that it was not an ancient time machine. That's at least some creative thought. But I literally think they just heard this on a Star Trek episode once, and they just lifted it. They're like, "Oh, it points the way to fissures in time." Okay, yeah, it's like that. Yeah, there's fissures in time. Did you know? So apparently, there's fissures in time. If you just walk through them, you'll be at another time, and they happen they're like the weather. They just occur in nature. They just occur. They're out there. And if you have the Dial of Destiny, it will point you to where the fissure is. Now, what does this imply? This implies that they are hard to find. This implies that you would never be able to find one if you didn't know where to look and you didn't know the exact precise time and place to be where it was going to occur. Now, that isn't terrible. I can live with that. It's a bit of a magical bullshit explanation, but it's just enough that I could go with it. But then they fly into it turns out that all you have to do is fly into a storm, and somewhere in the middle of that storm, where of course no storm chaser's ever been, no just civilian aircraft has ever been, no survey craft has ever been, there just happens to be a giant gaping fissure in the sky that could not look more like a spatial anomaly from Star Trek. And it's just there, and you could just fly through it, and it just sits there in the middle of the storm, and you just fly into it, and now you're in ancient Greece. And it's like, what the fuck? What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? Show's over, folks. I'm out of here. No, I'm just kidding. I'll bag on it some more. I'm not even scratching the surface, because that for 10 minutes after watching this movie, I literally was just not even thinking about it for 10 minutes. And then I started thinking just one little thread. I started pulling on one little thread at a time, and the whole thing just came undone like it was tissue paper. Star Fury says, when this movie loses $300 million, I will raise a glass to the people and throw the middle finger to Disney. Let me tell you something, Star Fury. Fu Man Blue's in the chat. Hail, Fu Man Blue. Let me tell you something about what disturbs me about this movie. It is the fact that it just barely succeeds as a mildly entertaining, I hesitate to use the word, I use this word against my better judgment, but adventure tale. It just barely toes that line. So I think most normal people who see this movie will have the normie attitude of it was pretty good. I didn't mind it. I mean, listen to how that conversation went with my mom. The first couple of questions, did you like the movie? Yeah, I liked it. What was your favorite scene? Can't think of one. Did you like Phoebe? She was okay. But then when so everything I've just pointed out to you, I started pointing out to her. And as soon as I pointed out all these things, she was like, you're right. He really didn't have anything to do in this movie. He wasn't actually looking for the dial. He was just chasing her. And I'm like, yeah. And did they ever mention the fact he was framed for murder again? No, they totally dropped that, didn't they? I'm like, that's what I mean when I say these movies, they play a trick. And this one, it's a little, I will say this. I actually think the critics at Cannes, I actually think their harshness was partly because they are, for better or worse, shill media or not, they are wonks. They're nerds about this the way you and I are, dear audience. They care very deeply about plot and details. And from that perspective, that's why, showing it to a Cannes Film Festival audience was the worst thing you could do. You know what they should have done? They should have done what Amazon did with Rings of Power. They should have went and got a bunch of phony, fake, influencers for hire and just got them. Oh yeah, I'm so excited. My girl Galadriel. That's what they should have done. My girl Phoebe in the house. Just all that shit. That's what they should have done, because I think that would have played better with the normies. But what did they do? They went and showed it to a room full of snotty, snooty, better than you film critics and thought that this would pass the smell test. And no. Dude, it's even a worse failure when you think about it, because having seen the movie, it's not the worst trash I've seen. Like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, way worse. It's still the worst film of the year. It's not like Little Mermaid, where it's a made-for-TV boondoggle that shouldn't even be in theaters. It's not like The Flash, where it's dark, dismal, and actually, you know what? I would say it's pretty even with The Flash, actually, because this problem, if Ezra Miller is cancer to The Flash, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is cancer to this movie. She is the worst choice for this archetype of character I've ever seen. And she is so smug the whole movie. By the way, see, this is what I love about this. She's a con artist and a thief. She knows every single ancient language. She knows every single ancient language that Indiana knows. She reads every single ancient hieroglyphic language that Indy reads. She's memorized. I shit you not, my dear sailors and star nuts. Please like and subscribe. She has memorized her dear old dad's journals, so she has them committed to memory. She is an expert in archaeology and is literally able to answer all the questions he asks in his class when none of his other students are able to answer them. So she literally can do every single thing Indiana Jones can do. There is one scene in the entire movie where Indiana Jones says, "You need me and you can't dump me." By the way, she spends most of the movie trying to dump him, trying to get rid of him and escape him. And he spends most of the first 2 acts chasing her. And there is one scene where he says, "You need me, admit it." And she's like, "No, I don't need you. I don't need you. I'm a strong, independent woman." I'm paraphrasing. And do you know the reason that she needed him? Was it an ancient secret that he knew? No. Was it a language he speaks that she doesn't? No. Was it historical knowledge of a location that she couldn't possibly know? No. Was it his knowledge of his good friend's journals? No, because she memorized them, if you don't recall. It's because he knew a guy with a boat. She needed a boat to get to the Mediterranean and didn't have one, and he knew a guy, Antonio y Banderas, who had a boat. The Dial of Destiny, ladies and gentlemen. This movie is so stupid. Oh my god, the more I think about it, the more I hate it. Starfury says, I would make a great Captain Kane from the wonderful film, The Kane Mutiny. I would have to, you know what? I got to check that one out. If I'm guessing that Captain Kane is some kind of nihilist or something. Fu Man Blue says, I'm more of a Captain Crunch. All noteworthy captains. So, yeah, Dial of Destiny. What else? There's a scene where the Forehead asks Indiana Jones, why did your son go off to war? Was it to impress you? Was it to impress you? And he says, no, it was to piss me off. Great. So his son hated him in addition to going and getting killed, so he was dead. The morality in this film is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Indiana Jones is actually shown in the film to be stopping the real thieves, Nazis. There's Nazis in this. The Nazis are the bad guys in this. And Indiana Jones is stopping them from looting and pillaging the world, and so that he can put those artifacts in museums and preserve them for history. So at multiple points in the film, he is shown to be preserving history. Phoebe Waller-Bridge lectures him for being a thief and a grave robber who has profited from it, even though he's penniless and drinks himself to sleep every night in his shitty apartment. Meanwhile, she is a con artist and a thief who only cares about selling to the highest bidder and is fine with letting her godfather be framed for murder and doesn't care at all. Kind of acts like he deserves it, frankly, which is odd. There's this weird implication that he should have been there for her. It's like the guy is American, she's British. Her father, who died at some point and left her an orphan, lived in England. It's like, so this weird guilt trip that she's putting on him that he should have been taking care of her. It's like there's no real justification for this. Oh, whatever. I mean, you could make the case. Who cares? Meanwhile, she starts to just out of the blue, inexplicably find her heart and decides that she likes her dear old goddad. But then at the end of the film, he just begs for death. Like it's just like Captain Picard. It is just like Luke Skywalker. It is just like all of these films. The end of the film is Indiana Jones has a bullet in the shoulder that he has been bleeding out for hours from, and he's fine. And he's just like, I'm in ancient Greece. Leave me here. I want to stay here. No, you can't. You can't stay here. You have to come with me. You have to come with me, says the forehead. No, leave me here. I want to stay here. But you can't. You can't. You don't belong here. This isn't your time. He's like, but I have to. I want to stay here. I really do. You can't. I'm going to take you home. No, listen to me. He said, she's saying this to Archimedes. The fucking Archimedes. Oh my God. I can't believe that they cheapen history this way. And she's like, and she's speaking in perfect ancient Greek, because also Indy knows ancient Greek and she knows ancient Greek and they're both speaking it flawlessly. It's whatever. Who cares? And so she's like, he belongs at his own time. He's going back to his time. No, I don't want to come back to my time. I'm not going to go back. If this sounds irritating to you, it is, because that's literally how the dialogue goes. They just are repeating themselves over and over and over and over and over until finally she punches him in the face and he wakes up in his apartment. Just like the leak said, it's dead on accurate. And I thought to myself, so look, honestly, this isn't new material because we knew this from the plot leak. This robs Indiana Jones of all morality because he was willing to screw up all of history for basically his grief for no reason. But this is why I say it's confused. The whole thing is confused because in the beginning of the movie, he doesn't care about archaeology and is not interested in it. Now, suddenly, he's so interested and passionate about it, he wants to stay in ancient Greece. And this movie makes no sense. Fu Man Blue says, would be weird if they didn't all speak ancient languages, right? I don't know. I guess, no, what I'm saying is Phoebe Waller-Bridge, her character, she's a modern person. She is a modern person who has learned these languages, but she's been transported 2,000 years and is speaking them fluently to a local. And I'm saying, even if you knew the language, this would be very difficult to do, because even if you knew the language, your accent, your dialect, you'd probably, miss a word here or there. It would be very broken if you went back and spoke English in Shakespeare's time, it would probably be hard to communicate, actually. If you went 700 years into the past and were just walking the streets of London in the time of Shakespeare, you could probably understand the language and speak it, but you would sound bizarre to people of that time. And they would sound strange to you. Read Shakespeare. If it sounds weird, part of it is it's written in a poetic format, but the words they use are not the words we use today. And it would be difficult, even as a student of that time of Old English or Middle English, it would be difficult to communicate with someone in that time. So I'm saying I don't care if you know the language. You go back 2,000 years, it's going to sound weird. It's not going to sound fluent. So that's a minor critique. I'm just saying it annoys me. Fu Man Blue says, I agree. I was just being a smartass. No, I understand. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just clarifying my point. I totally get it. Silverback says, they could have just applied SG-1 writing style and have everyone speak modern English for explicitly no reason. Yes, I'm going to tell you, that does strain my patience with SG-1. Just give them a magical bullshit technology. Why couldn't they just say that Teal'c had like one of Ra's little translators, and he just gave it to them. Why couldn't they just do that? It would have explained it all, and then it wouldn't be bugging me all the time when I'm watching the show. But believe me, when I watched Star Trek back in the day, it bugged me until I understood the universal translator and that it worked, and that when they're on screen and it's a Klingon or a Romulan, that there's a universal translator that's translating. Once I understood that as a kid, I no longer cared about it. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, that's probably unlikely we'll ever have technology quite like that, but who cares, right? Just give me a reason to suspend disbelief. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for... That's why, this whole thing with the Dial of Destiny, it finds fissures in time. It's a magical bullshit explanation, but it's not as bad as an ancient Greek, invented time travel. Like, that's pretty far of a stretch. But I can live with there's fissures in time. What I can't live with is the fact that they don't actually develop the concept with the nuance and the depth that they could have done. Honest to God, this is one of the cheapest, laziest time travel stories I've ever seen. I don't think this should have been a time travel story. I've never been so not wowed by getting to see ancient Greece. It honestly was like a bad made for TV version of like Troy. It was almost like I swear to God, one has to wonder, did they just go dig up like the old CGI models from the Troy film from like 15 years ago, and just repurpose the triremes? I have to wonder, my dear sailors and starnauts, because I didn't see anything that looked like this convinced me that we're in ancient Greece. By the way, why is it that the ancient Greeks see a giant fissure in the sky and that doesn't bother them? It's like, they're so stupid. They're so hard to find. I can never find these fissures. I'm going to invent a dial. Let's call it the Dial of Destiny. And it's going to find all the fissures. The freaking fissure is right above Archimedes' city. Right where Archimedes lives, in his city. You look up in the sky, giant fissure. What are you talking about? Why do you need the dial? You don't need the dial. The fissure is right there. It's like, this is so stupid. I can't even... Oh my God. Okay, what else? Have I just... what would the captain score this film? How many bars on the epaulets does this film get? Well, out of 10 possible bars on the epaulets, this film scores 3. And that is because it would be unethical to score this film lower than Ant-Man Quantumania, which gets 0. Or The Flash. Let's see. What would I say? I'd say The Flash clocks in at about a 3. Yeah, no, so I'm revising. No, 2 bars. 2 bars for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and 3 bars for The Flash because of Michael Keaton. And that is the only reason. Okay, let me give you one more example of how confused the morality is in this film. When the Nazi plane that's doing all of its Nazism is flying over the Greek battle, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the forehead. I'll just, going forward, the forehead, just for brevity's sake. I can't say that stupid name so many times an hour. She's climbing up the... Help me out, Silverback. I know you would know this. What do you call it? The landing gear. She's climbing up the landing gear. I'm a ship guy, okay? And she manages to knock one of the Nazis, who's a Nazi, down the landing gear, and he's hanging on for dear life. He's going to fall to his death. She's just managed to climb into the plane, and he says, help! He calls out to help for her, right? And she says, sorry, not going to help you. You're a Nazi. And it's played for laughs, which is fine. I mean, he's a bad guy. He deserves to die. No problem with that. Here's the problem, though. The film is acting as though she is a moral character. She's not. She, in her own words, is a grave robber who sells to the highest bidder and leaves her godfather to be framed for a murder he didn't commit happily. She is a sociopath. So hearing one sociopath say to the other sociopath, sorry, I'm not going to help you. You're a sociopath, does nothing for me. I think, you know what? Drop her out right along with the Nazi who's a Nazi. The bad guys are Nazis in this movie. You would not believe how many times the characters in this film point out that there are Nazis in this movie. It grated on me. This, by the way, this is why I was a little bit hesitant about Sisu. I thought this is what Sisu is going to be. Sisu is going to be one of these low IQ, historically illiterate, just the Twitter mob who just they see a Nazi hiding under every bush while understanding none of what National Socialism actually is, without understanding why National Socialism is so evil, because they don't actually understand it at all. But they hear the word Nazi and they think things like Orange Man bad and people I don't like who don't use my pronouns, and they just lump all that together and they think that's what a Nazi is. Certainly not someone who dresses up in a black mask at a protest, puts a bike lock in a sock, and beats up people they don't like. That's not a Nazi. That's just being stunning and brave. So these idiots, that's their deepest understanding of history, right? But Sisu, on the other hand, hardly even uses the word. I don't even think the word is even in that movie. But you understand what Nazis are in that movie because you see the shit that they do, right? So, and you see it as it really was historically, and it's great. Sisu is an excellent film, by the way. Absolutely love Sisu. And it was a proper historical film, which, by the way, I cannot tell you, how does a film that was made for 8 million euros have production value like that? Historical period piece with that kind of production value is unreal to me. That movie, it looked as good as like a Saving Private Ryan or a Band of Brothers level of quality. It was unreal on 8 million euros. Look what they do with this piece of crap, Indiana Jones. Silverback says Riker should have been brought to a court-martial for his insubordination to Captain Jellicoe. I must have. That's excellent point, sir, and totally off topic. But the captain will allow it. Because you were correct. He should have been. But, it all works out in the end. I think I've covered pretty much everything I want to cover on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So let us move on to some of the good news, shall we? Now, I want you to take this next story I'm going to share with you, my dear sailors and starnauts, with a grain of salt. If you're just joining us, you are watching the Captain's Cast on Swords and Starships with your host, Captain Garrett. Please do like and subscribe, and allow me to now share with you this headline. Disney selling Star Wars? Kathleen Kennedy throws Kevin Feige under the bus. And that is the wrong headline. That's not actually the headline I was looking for. All right, I got to find it. Hang on. Although that is a good one. That is pretty interesting. We might read that one too. Kathleen. No, it's got to be this one. It was Cosmic Book News. Hang on. Delay of game. Oh, here it is. I got it. I gave myself the wrong link when I was building the stack of stuff. Okay. Here, try this headline. Right after I asked for a like and a subscribe. How's that? Indiana Jones 5, looking like a bomb. Kathleen Kennedy finally fired. Now, this is half of a really spot-on headline. And it's half of wishful thinking, I regret to inform you. But let's see what they have to say. That's a great... this picture, by the way, encapsulates Harrison Ford in this entire movie. I'm just going to call him Indiana Picard.
Oh, well, I'm not a grave robber. I was trying to deliver priceless relics to the museum. Do you know how to read the hieroglyphs?
Of course I know how to read the hieroglyphs. I memorized all those languages. I don't need you, old man.
Oh, well, I have a boat.
Is this finally the last time we'll see Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm? As again, it is claimed she has been fired. She has more lives than a cat, this bitch. Which follows it looking like Indiana Jones 5 will be another massive box office failure. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is now out in theaters. However, much like the 80-year-old titular character I love any excuse to use the word titular is unable to do, people are not running to see it. Estimates offer Indiana Jones 5 will open to only $60 million to $65 million, which isn't much when the budget of the flick is said to have been a hefty price tag of $300 million. And, my dear sailors of Starnuts, do not forget, 60 to 65 million is gross revenue. That's not what they earn. What they earn is the percentage from the tickets that they get for renting the theaters, the venues. So, this is part of the problem with these. This is why when they break even revenue-wise, they're actually losing money, because it's not just the marketing budget, it's the fact that they don't always get the same deal. Your captain's been brushing up. I dare say. Picard maneuver. Saturday update. That would be yesterday. The box office is now looking like 60, not 65, 60 million, with a low, of $55 million possible, which is what The Flash bombed with. Isn't it glorious, my dear friends? Is this not a day for vindication? If any of these just, soulless cash grab corporate just mulched through the algorithm wood chipper, soulless pieces of crap. And I went on too long of a sentence. I don't remember what I started. If any of these mulched through the wood chipper bombs could possibly pass as like a successful film, I actually think this is one of the few that could kind of do it. I actually feel like it does have a happy ending, which is more than I can say for The Flash. Well, The Flash does have a happy ending, I guess, but it's still dismal somehow. But I feel like this would be the one. It's not. It is trending for a 55 to $60 million bomb on its opening weekend. Now, as this author at Cosmic Book News points out, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is going to need Avatar 2 legs that also didn't open well, but the movie from King James Cameron went on to magically bring in over $2.3 billion. However, when the King James sequel was released, there wasn't any competition. Is that the secret? But as it is the summer, Indiana Jones 5 is facing lots of competition, which includes Spider-Man, Christopher Nolan, and Tom Cruise, and you better believe that is competition. MI7, I think MI7 is about to just crush it at the box office. I got to feel, I'm going out on a limb on this one. Oppenheimer, bit more of a niche kind of film. I'm going to love it. I hope it does well. MI7, going to crush it. I just totally believe that. Kingdom of Crystal Skull opened to a massive $100 million when it opened in 2008, the equivalent of $141 million in today's dollars. So Indy 5 is opening less than half that. And Crystal Skull was a failure. Oh, there she is. The woman of the hour is Kathleen. Crystal Skull also brought in over $1.1 billion in today's dollars, and the flick wasn't any good, and it followed 1989's The Last Crusade, which was really good and much better, something Indy 5 doesn't have the benefit of. Am I wrong about this? Did Crystal Skull... No, so Crystal Skull was a success then, $1.1 billion. I must be incorrect on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Tom is waving. Hello, Tom. Yeah, I see you said heart, Captain. Captain... will allow it. Permission to come aboard granted, sir. Granted. Is it Christmas in July? Fans have been hoping since the release of Star Wars The Last Jedi that Kathleen Kennedy would be fired by Disney, as Kennedy has destroyed the Star Wars franchise as well as everything George Lucas has created at Lucasfilm, including Willow. It's so bad it's getting pulled from Disney+, and now Indiana Jones. I am becoming of the mind that I actually don't want Kathleen fired. It's sort of like, that scene in Hannibal, if you've ever seen that movie, when the pedophile that has the carved up face. Basically, Hannibal drugged him and talked this guy. He was a pedophile, and he talked him into cutting up his face. And now he wants revenge on Hannibal for doing that, right? Because Hannibal thinks of himself as taking out the trash. So in this case, he was actually taking out the trash, which is this pedophile millionaire. Anyway, and the guy's like, you tried to kill me, Hannibal, but now I'm the one that's going to kill you, or something like that. And Hannibal says, no, I don't want to kill you. I prefer you just the way you are, because he's all mangled and ugly looking. I kind of feel this way about Kathleen and Disney. It's like, it's like, we're never going to fire Kathleen. It's like, oh no, Disney, I don't want you to fire Kathleen. I kind of prefer you just the way you are. I want her to produce 5 more disasters for you. I want her to launch this Ray film. I want her to get another Indiana Jones, and I want Phoebe Waller-Bridge to be the star. I want all of these things, and I want it to be hung around your neck like the albatross that it is. She is a curse, and you can't get rid of her. She is like the herpes, man. She just keeps coming back. You can only treat the symptoms, my friend. There's nothing else you can do. She is a symptom you can treat. You can't cure. You are stuck with Kathleen, and I'm starting to prefer it this way, to be quite honest with you. I like seeing failure not rewarded. So yes, on that level, sure, she should be fired. She's not going to be. Look, she's not going to be fired. But there is a rumor, and I would be remiss if I did not report this rumor to you, my dear sailors of Starnuts, because we all know that rumors are very important. Anyway, it also probably means that the recent Star Wars announcement by Kennedy are no longer happening. When has a new Star Wars project she's announced since Rise of Skywalker ever happened? They haven't happened. Kennedy announced the new Rey Star Wars movie that nobody asked for and has the Acolyte supposedly coming out on Disney+. But rumors say, in order to save her job, she announced those projects as Bob Iger wants her fired after botching Indiana Jones 5. What a loser this woman is. Can you imagine being this woman and having this job that she has, and all you care about is just all she cares about is just hanging on to her job. She is a corporate knife fighter. That's all she is. She's just playing a corporate game, and she's good at it. I'll give her that. She's good at playing the corporate game. She uses all the woke politics as a shield, and she keeps herself in power. And by the way, corporate America is filled with people like her. Filled with her. I've seen them my entire life, and they disgust me, quite frankly. I know people like this. They hide their failures. They play stupid little political games. They knife good people that do their job well in the back. I have seen more good people fired in corporate ladders than I've seen losers that deserve it, that are hiding their failures. And it's incredible. And you know what they're good at, these people? They are good at politics. They are good at schmoozing the right people and throwing the right people under the bus, and usually their timing is good. That's the other thing. Timing is the key with corporate knife fights, right? And I actually tend to think this makes a lot of sense. She announced these projects because it puts Bob Iger in a bind, because it's just going to make it more painful. So her timing is actually pretty smart when you think about it. So here's the rumor. Hollywood writer and producer Cameron Pasha, who said The Acolyte is canceled, contacted his Lucasfilm source Sparrow, who said, allegedly, Sparrow couldn't confirm Kathleen Kennedy has been let go. He said, or she said, whoever they are, said Leslie Headland has been wiped from the Lucasfilm system. That is interesting. Said Kathleen Kennedy's Lucasfilm email account has been deactivated and suspended. Said Kathleen Kennedy's schedule has been blocked off by Disney for 2 weeks. Said Kathleen has been put on a 2-week paid leave of absence. Said Disney executives visited the Lucasfilm offices and took tours of everything. So if all those rumors are true, yeah, it looks like she's getting the boot. You know, at this point, the damage is done. And look, it's not going to get better. Kathleen gets fired, nothing's going to change. Bob Iger is not capable of restoring Disney to the way it was before because he has a mental ideological block, and it's called the woke mind virus. It's also the fact that, look, he's good at corporate politics. He's not a creative. He's not an artist. He thinks he is. He talks like he is. Our stories are meant to appeal to a worldwide audience, and our marketing is meant to bring in new people into the brand. And it's like, you don't know anything about why people love Indiana Jones. You don't understand why Captain America and Iron Man are iconic. You have contempt. You have contempt for the things we love. You know, I'm going to tell you something. This film, Indiana Jones 5, it has contempt for Indiana Jones. It's exactly what I said it is. They don't like this character. They don't understand this character. And I'll prove it to you. I will prove it to you right now.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
This film is
Now
incredible.
you know how I feel being in the same
What a shill!
frame with Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
This film is incredible. This film, I'm so excited to be sitting here right now. This film is incredible.
Both of you guys are so beautiful. But
Thank you.
listen,
What a
Thank you.
dweeb. Oh my God. I'm so glad that I have this job. I'm so glad.
I guess you're talking about me.
both of you.
Yeah.
But honestly,
You're just gorgeous.
you are gorgeous.
Thank you.
This film.
Oh yeah, no, I kind of cut this off. You know what? I'll go back and play it. This is one of the most soy frickin' things I've ever seen. Tell me if this doesn't make you cringe.
Damped down in spirit until he's challenged by the character that Phoebe plays. And in the context of that relationship, he learns to love and laugh and live again.
He learns to love and to laugh and to live again.
All right.
Hi.
I don't know where it was in this. If I find it, I find it. Basically, this soy infused shill over here. He's like, "You're both gorgeous." Like, that's a weird thing to say. And then they have this awkward, "Oh no, yes, we're both gorgeous." So I guess he meant you. Oh no, I meant both of you. Okay, that's so weird.
horror in there, and I loved this movie. Harrison,
I love this
first question
movie.
for you is, I love where Indiana Jones starts in this film because it really humanizes the character a lot.
Of course you do. Of course you love where Indiana. It's where every single legacy character starts. You uninspired, uncreative dweeb who knows nothing about story structure. This is boring. Every single movie that idiots like you praise and idiots like them write starts this way. He is a loser in a barca lounger who drinks himself to sleep every night. His wife has left him, and he hates what his whole life was built around now and doesn't want to do anything, and he just wants to be left to die. Captain Picard, Luke Skywalker, Willow, all of these things. Remind me of others, chat. There's got to be more. And so this is why I get so frustrated with this, is because if this idiot had been the person they asked for advice for how to write Maverick would have been asleep in a barca lounger, having drunk himself to sleep, never wanting to fly planes anymore, and he would have not been interested in getting back into Top Gun.
Can you talk to me about what you wanted to focus on in the final chapter with Indiana Jones?
Well, as much as we've come to know the character and through his experiences and his relationships, this is the last Indiana Jones film for me.
Thank God.
So I wanted to deal with
Please may it be
the end
so.
of his career. I wanted to deal with his age and his a less physical capacity in his is available to him.
If he had less physical capacity.
Look, with great respect for Harrison Ford, he did himself no favors by being in this movie. He did his character and his legacy as an actor no favors by being in this movie. And frankly, he is a very good actor. He is not a particularly inspired writer, if what I'm seeing here is any indication. He's like, well, he's not very physical. Well, of course he's not. Nor should he be. That doesn't mean he has to be a loser whose son is dead, and he's dead because his son hated him. If his son didn't hate him, he never would have gone into the Vietnam War and got killed. Where is it written that this is how your captain is going to explain to you how I would have done this film in just a minute. But first, let we go on.
And he's also ending his
Starfury says, are we allowed to... Something I can't say. All media junkets, please. Starfury, you nihilist, you. It also goes on to say, even a drunk loser Maverick would still be the best pilot on his worst day, and Tom Cruise would have pulled that off well. That, it's not that he couldn't, right? It's just that this is the only trope they know, right? They're recycling the same trope over and over and over again. These are the same idiots that came up with the stuffed in the fridge idea, which is that you shouldn't fridge a character. Well, they fridged his son. They fridged his son because they wanted to give him, a reason not to have a male character to mentor. That's number one. Number two, they wanted to have a reason for him to be sad, depressed, and having given up on life. And the film tries to put her in the position of rekindling that, and he says it in this interview, and I want to just gag, throw up. It's so pathetic. She has none of the charisma, likability, or any moral foundation whatsoever to bring him back from the brink, and she fails. Literally, the only thing that brings him back to his own time is her fist. And I'm like, look at this nerdy dweeb that she is. She's not capable of delivering a punch that can, maybe can knock out an 84-year-old. I'll give her that. I will give her... Look, no disrespect to nerdy dweebs. I am one. I'm trying to say she's not the right actor for this part. Not that it was, also it wasn't written to be an interesting part anyway.
Academic career, which has not been the high point of his life. So he's a bit damped down in spirit until he's challenged by the character that Phoebe plays.
He literally begs for death right up to the end of the film. What are you talking about?
And in the context of that relationship, he learns to love and laugh and live again.
Phoebe, I absolutely love Helena. I think this character is so awesome. And I loved what you brought to the character. Can you talk to me about your approach to the character and what you wanted to bring to stand out from different Indiana Jones?
Fu Man Blue says to Starfury, somebody likes Mav. Starfury says, he is my man crush. Fu Man Blue says, elder abuse. What sort of message does this send to the self-important youth of America? Just thought I'd highlight those chats.
Jones allies that we've seen in the past?
I think the script did a lot of that for me because she was a very unique character on the page. And I just loved how layered she was in terms of her moral ambiguity. And
she was a psychopath. There were no layers.
That was very appealing to me. There was somebody who clearly has a heart and clearly has a longing for friendship, companionship, and family, but that's buried so deep below her bravado and her apparent need for cash, which is the real love story in her mind at the beginning is between Helena and cash.
I have no idea why, but the way this woman says the word cash makes me want to throw up in my mouth.
Cash. And I just thought she was really interesting, and she was also a product of her time. She was in the late 60s. She was very independent. She was a survivor from having had no parents growing up, having been abandoned by her godfather.
Asshole.
Even. So I thought being able to skate between those two lines of someone who's like grappling with something really good and pure and also can't help but have a real taste for the nefarious is a really fun ride to be on. And
it absolutely is a fun ride to be on. Harrison.
Oh my God. I just want to puke when I listen to these stupid Access Media people. They're so fake. Absolutely. It's such a good movie. Oh, yeah.
Sean Connery, who played your father in The Last Crusade, once said that playing James Bond, the key to playing James Bond was to make it look effortless. What would you say your key to playing Indiana Jones is?
The opposite. To make the audience understand that the physical challenges, the emotional challenges, the overcoming of fear, the overcoming of just how you can believe the circumstances you've gotten yourself in and how you might work your way out of them is.
Do you know who does this? I know what he's trying to say here. He's trying to say that Indiana Jones, unlike James Bond, who makes everything effortless because he's so damn good at it, everything, which is as it should be, Indiana Jones is an improviser. He is always in situations he doesn't intend to be in, and he's got to think on his feet and get out of them. And what he's trying to say. And he's right about this. That's actually exactly why Indiana Jones is such a charming character. Do you know who does this well? Tom Cruise does this well in Mission Impossible. Ethan Hunt does this incredibly well. He's actually if James Bond is the cool, always got everything under control super spy, Ethan Hunt is kind of the Indiana Jones super spy who's always in the middle of a mess that he's got to think his way out of or, fight his way out of. Unfortunately, what he's describing here is what the original films were. It's not what this film is. He is chasing her. By the way, okay, it's so disconnected, this plot. He is going to go down for murder of these colleagues of his because she has the dial. And unless he chases her around the world and gets the dial back and brings it home to show the police to explain, how is that supposed to clear his name for murder? How is her testimony going to clear his name for murder? It's it doesn't even make any... It's this plot, but fortunately, they don't even mention it anymore. They just forget that was even a plot element by the end.
Big part of the story. I forgot what the question is.
You answered it. You answered it. So
perfectly.
Yeah, it was perfect answer. Look, thank you guys so much for your time. This movie is incredible. I cannot wait to see it. I cannot wait to take my family to see it.
Take my whole family.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, God, there's always so much of that I could take. Try this headline. Indiana Jones and the box office of doom. Why Dial of Destiny at $60 million opening isn't setting records for the franchise finale.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is dead.
No, thanks, Valiant Renegade. I'll bet that's a good video. Hat tip, Valiant Renegade. Disney Lucasfilm is looking to hit the bottom rung of its tracking projection of $60 million Sunday morning. There's no question this is a disastrous result for the finale to a historically beloved franchise film. Come on, Indiana Jones is one of the reasons why Disney shelled out $4 billion for Lucasfilm. Global start here at $130 million is $10 million less than what we are seeing. Let me see if I can find a pull quote I found interesting in this. Or we'll move on. It's baffling that a storied franchise can end on a downer note at the box office in its finale. I found the movie Out of Can to be too plug-and-play, laden in tropes of the franchise, from the kid's sidekick to video game-like action, to its goddaughter, not his dad, as his other sidekick. It's completely lacked the breadth and nuance that Steven Spielberg provided in action scenes of the older films. And I'm a James Mangold fan. He knows how to make a styled and dramatically charged movie that likes Spielberg, whether it's Logan, Ford vs. Ferrari, or Walk the Line. Ford vs. Ferrari, great film. So what the hell went wrong with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? Lucasfilm is so precious and fastidious when it comes to developing Star Wars. They are? That's news to me. They're so fastidious. Have you seen Obi-Wan Kenobi? Have you seen Boba Fett? Have you seen season 3 of The Mandalorian? What are you talking about? Fastidious. So fastidious. And the legend with Indiana Jones is that these movies could never be made unless George Lucas and Spielberg saw eye to eye on the script. Remember, all the TLC that J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan took in hatching Force Awakens, there were stories of them walking down the NYC streets, going back and forth on storylines so brave, given the black eye that Lucasfilm took on Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, and Solo from fans, and a lot more films, by the way. They're careful not to just rush and dump sequels nowadays. What? What are you smoking? They're not? They aren't? How many shows have they released on Disney Plus? Have you heard of a thing called Willow, sir? Or madam, whatever you are. All this makes the misfire here with Dial of Destiny so concerning. The biggest problem with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is that there were no efforts here to cast it up and make it appealing to an under 40 diverse crowd. Oh no, that's it. No, you see? No, it's a bunch of old white dudes is the problem. Oh my God, when will the lesson be learned? When will it be learned? Never. So they think Top Gun... Well, look, of course you have to appeal to a broad audience. Nobody's denying that. But this is not what made this movie fail. Yes, Disney reports that 42% of the audience was under 35 for Dial of Destiny. And did I just misread this? What are you saying? The biggest problem with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is that there were no efforts here to cast it up and make it appealing to an under 40 diverse crowd. Okay, so they're saying the problem is you did not make it appealing to an under 40 crowd. Disney reports that 42% of the audience was under 35 for... Okay, so he's saying 42 is a low number. Okay, I get it now. I get it. I'm told from a few insiders that this movie did not have the behind-the-scenes calamity melodrama of such Lucasfilm titles as Rogue One, which had Tony Gilroy doing reshoots and rewrites on the Gareth Edwards-directed film, and Solo, a Star Wars story, which had the ungracious firing of Lord and Miller and Ron Howard come to the rescue. Installments that required major surgery during production. No melodrama, meaning everyone got along, with Mangold calling the production and Lucasfilm boss indie producer Kathleen Kennedy and producer Frank Marshall family at Cannes. Well, they're corporate shills. They're going to say whatever they're supposed to say at Cannes. Spielberg loved and signed off on the script by Mangold and his Ford versus Ferrari scribes, Jez and John Henry Butterworth, and that's a challenging bar to clear. How do I get rid of this? No, it's not going to hide articles. Thank you. No updates, please. Yesterday, I heard that several editors were brought in to get this one right. It's unfortunately apparent here that the Sublime, which Mangold delivered to the X-Men franchise with R-rated Logan, another story about a old, tired, given up Wolverine, did not translate here to Indiana Jones. To date, Indy co-franchise architect George Lucas has remained silent about his thoughts on Dial of Destiny. Gee, I wonder why. I've gotten clarity on the whole test score scuttlebutt, a thing about inflated test scores. While Disney typically uses a friends and family testing system so that no spoilers are leaked in advance, I'm now told Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny never tested. Take what you will from that. Still, it's not like Disney to stick their head out there on a chopping block by launching so-so movies on a global stage when they're not ready. No, they usually launch so-so movies on a global stage whenever they feel, right when it's time. The studio plots the marketing campaigns for their tentpoles like D-Day. Both of these planned tentpoles' commercial potential went out the window the minute Disney took them to Cannes. Why is it that this isn't part of... This is their D-Day planning, you idiot. It's like, this is their D-Day planning. I know. We'll release this great, great movie for a bunch of snooty, snotty, independent film critics in Cannes, like the most snooty, snotty film festival in all the world, and it'll go great. It's like, what idiots are these? These people are idiots. This is their plan, sir. This is how they plan things. Why can't you see that? Blue pill. No, he's not a blue pill. That's too nice. He's a shill. Why did who am I talking to here? I will give my opponent the credit of his name, Anthony de Alessandro. Good. I just wanted to know what his correct pronouns were. I lost my place. Yes, saw that. Yes. But here's the consistent problem with Indiana Jones that it has had at the box office and with critics, and that is he's always been in competition with himself. Raiders of the Lost Ark really blew audiences away back in 1982, bringing new life to the old adventure serial movies. The pick grossed more than $212 million in its initial release and had multiple reissues, making its way to $248 million. That's been the gold standard against which all indie sequels have been compared, and well, he generally comes up short. Read on. I think to this day that Part 2, 1984's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, is still the best sequel to this day. It's as edgy as hell. Come on, it has a villain who pulls hearts out of people and makes human sacrifices. It's a PG movie that prompted the MPA to create a PG-13 rating because it scared the heck out of kids. However, you like that, sir? However, I'll never forget back then, in the whip and buggy days before Rotten Tomatoes, that critics loathed the movie. Well, quite frankly, a lot of fans loathed that movie. Variety's then critic, Deadline's current Todd McCarthy, slammed the Temple of Doom, writing, "The pick comes on like a sledgehammer, and there's even a taste of vulgarity and senseless excess not apparent in Raiders." So why? I'm just skipping ahead here. So why did the critically not loved Crystal Skull, 70% of Rotten Tomatoes, wind up being the franchise's highest grossest film? Because it was coming off of The Last Crusade, which was quite beloved, and there was an appetite for moviegoers to see the sequel because there hadn't been an Indiana Jones film in close to 2 decades. But despite its blockbuster success in a stadium-seating, vibrant exhibition era, not many people liked Crystal Skull. Hello, B Cinema Score. And that sequel, too, also doted and joked around about Indy going gray. Unlike 007, the same actor has always played Indiana Jones. The franchise's legacy with Ford has prevented it from being rebooted with a new leading actor, but hopefully Phoebe Waller-Bridge is our woman. He didn't say that, but that's what he really thinks. Which leads us to Dial of Destiny's blot results. Why so low? Isn't it kind of... Look, if I'm boring you, I'll move on. It just fascinates me watching these people try and work it out, right? They're like... They just got their tongue sticking out, and they're just with a pencil. Carry the one. Why doesn't this work? They're working so hard to figure all this out. Isn't it amazing? I've never seen people work so hard to figure out the obvious. While CinemaScore at Screen Engine's post-track exits show follow me here, a 93% recommending Dial of Destiny, combined from the yes or probably recommend category, and 8% not recommending. Dig further in this AM's Carry the One report, and you'll find a more telling stat about how no one is rushing to Dial of Destiny. Only 9% heard it was good from family and friends. Aha! Here's the box office surprise no one was expecting this summer. At an opening of the $61 million, Paramount's long-in-the-tooth franchise sequel Transformers Rise of the Beasts opened higher than these high-gloss sequels, including Dial of Destiny and The Flash. The latter DC film counts a running total at the end of the weekend of 99 million. Oh, who cares? I'm sorry, I can't take any more of this guy. Look at this. Look at all this shit. How long is this article? Oh my God. It just... What in the hell? Look at this. Sir, Mr. Antonio, what was it? De Alessandro, let me help you, sir. Indiana Jones is a loser. The forehead is a sociopath. She's boring. She's unlikable. She's gangly and nerdy. She does not fit the role of an action star. Everything's CGI. It's in a volume. The action scenes are pointed and bloated. There's Nazis in it. Nazis are in it. The villains are Nazis because Nazis are Nazis. And there is a stupid plot about flying into ancient Greece, and the plane just keeps on flying and gets destroyed for no reason by triremes. This movie is a mess. And quite seriously, if I were to just dial it back for just a moment and be just a slight bit more sober, what I would say is, it's very simple, sir. It is very simple. Indiana Jones is a Golden Fleece story. This is not a Golden Fleece story. This is a dude with a problem story. Indiana Jones is like John McClane in the tower. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't choose to be there. All he wants is to get out of the tower where the terrorists are so he can go back to his shitty life. That is what this movie is. That's not what Indiana Jones is supposed to be. Now, the reason why you're so confused is because there is a Golden Fleece story in it. It's just in the wrong character. The Golden Fleece story is with a sociopathic con artist thief played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who clearly has a much higher opinion of her skills than anyone watching her. I just don't know how much... I'm trying to help these people, folks. I'm trying to help them. But I'm beginning to think they're just beyond help. So that is the Dial of Destiny. All right, let's move on, shall we? We have much more things to talk about. Such as... Oh, no. Oh, no. Here, there's... Oh, no. Well, should I give you one more headline on this? I think I beat a dead horse here. But I will... Here's what I will say. Because, Phoebe Waller... it's so wonderful. She's very interested in cash. But she motivates him to learn to love again. And it's just so delightful. Well, so there's a headline where basically Phoebe Waller-Bridge was saying she just thinks it's glorious, darling, that she punched Indiana Jones, an 84-year-old man, right in the face to save the world. She saved the world, folks. She saved the world by punching an old man in the face. And she thinks it's glorious because it's so funny. Well, obviously. By the way, that's what all you idiot actors think. Oh, why is The Flash losing money? Why is Ant-Man Quantumania losing money? Why is Thor Love and Thunder losing money? Why is Wakanda Forever losing money? Why is Willow being pulled off of the Disney Plus platform? Why is The Little Mermaid losing money? Because everything has turned into, it's glorious because it's so funny. That's what you've done to all this shit. You've turned it all into a big dumb joke, and it's ruining it. It's ruining it. So yes, of course you think that. But anyway, there is a class act leading woman in Hollywood who actually is a leading woman, unlike the forehead, who actually is attractive, unlike the forehead, who actually is charming and likable and makes you get invested in her characters and can be an action hero and actually be convincing as an action hero in a superhero role. And that, my dear sailors and starnauts, that lovely person would be Gal Gadot, or Gadot. I'm just going to go with Gadot. And this from Bounding Into Comics. So Gal Gadot is in the middle of filming her own original, not a gender swapped, her own original female-led spy thriller where she is an action hero. And she had this to say. Gal Gadot rebukes Hollywood's misogyny narrative. Moviegoers, quote, do want to see movies with women if the story is good. Gal Gadot, who stars as Rachel Stone in the upcoming Netflix film Heart of Stone, recently shared comments that rebuke Hollywood's misogyny narrative. Like, there is an attractive woman. I'm just saying. Speaking with Vogue Hong Kong about Heart of Stone, which, you know what? She has earned a view from the captain with these comments. I will check out this movie when it comes out on Netflix, and honestly, I don't have much faith because it's Netflix, but I hope for her sake that this is a good movie. I really do. And she was asked, how important is it to you to portray these types of roles? What do you hope audiences take away from your performances? I can just already, maybe Hong Kong it's a little different, but if it's that typical soy boy, like in that previous interview clip we just watched, it's like, oh, how important is it for you to be representation for female women's? Gadot responded, great question. Well, it's funny. I guess I just got lucky playing very strong, powerful characters. Heart of Stone was something I always wanted to do. I always felt like I was a big fan of this genre. I'm a big fan of Mission Impossible and Bond movies, and I never had the opportunity as a girl watching myself in one of those, I was always wondering if there's room for something like that, but female-driven. She continued, and I think I got that confidence only after Wonder Woman came out and became this huge success. And let me just tell you something. I was not excited to watch Wonder Woman. I went to see it, and I thought this is going to be just a woke dumpster fire. And I remember I watched that movie, and I loved it. And I'll tell you one of the things I loved about the first Wonder Woman film. They nailed World War I. They just nailed World War I history. It was done so beautifully. It was such a good period piece. And she was lovable. She was likable. She was cute. She was charismatic. And when her heroic moment comes, it's brilliant. It's excellent. Wonder Woman 1984 was an abortion. That movie was so god-awful bad. Oh, that breaks my heart. It really does break my heart that Wonder Woman 1984 was a trash fire, because the first Wonder Woman film was excellent, and it had a lot to do, mostly to do with her, quite frankly. But you know something? She is vulnerable in that film. That's the thing. She is a powerful woman because obviously she's a goddess and she has superpowers and she kicks ass, but it was her vulnerability and her innocence as a character that just made her so endearing right away in that film. And it's like, that's rare. They usually will not allow, this is why we say girl boss, because what we're talking about is Mary Sue's. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is just not allowed to be anything other than a sociopath in this Indiana Jones movie. Anyway, so Gal Gadot says, and I think I got that confidence. That was the thing that really proved me, wait, why do people say that men don't want to see women? They do want to see movies with women if the story is good, if the action is there, if it makes sense. They're all for it. Nailed it. Exactly. Was that so hard? Of course men want to see women. Of course. Look, nerds like female superheroes. I hate to let the cat out of the bag. We like seeing women in spandex fighting bad guys. We enjoy it. I'm not going to explain why, but we do. After Wonder Woman came out, Yaron, my husband, she goes on to say, who is also my partner in my production company, we had a meeting with David Ellison. We had a great time. At the end of the conversation, David asked me, so what do you want to do? What do you want to produce? And I told him, I want to produce a female-driven action film. Cough button. So I'm very grateful for the fact that we've had such great partners like David, Skydance, and Netflix. It's been an incredible ride. You know what? Like Tom Cruise, Gal Gadot is a class act when it comes to how she treats her audience. I have got to say, she's up there with Henry Cavill, Tom Cruise, Gal Gadot, just class acts. You never hear them on Twitter saying a bunch of brainless bullshit. You never hear them acting like they're morally superior or better than you or lecturing their audience or talking about their platform. It's like she's basically, the humility is what absolutely endears me to her as an actor, whether or not this movie is good. And I hope it is because she deserves it. Unfortunately, she's been in some stinkers, folks. So, gotta. But that being said, I'm rooting for her. I would love nothing more than this to be an excellent film. But like her ability to just acknowledge the fact that, my critiques of the forehead have nothing to do with her gender. It has to do with the fact she doesn't belong in this movie. She's not an action star. She doesn't have the charisma or the likability. She's not interested in being likable, by the way. She models her entire personality over being snotty, snooty, and better than you. Sorry, that's not endearing. She ain't no Marion, and she ain't never gonna be. Okay? She's no Princess Leia, and she ain't never gonna be. So, moving on to a much better piece of crap. Oh, wait, what? No, no, there is no. I'm moving on to a much worse piece of crap, Secret Invasion. Oh, God, this show. Oh, here we go again, folks. Here we go again. Starfury says, aliens, Sigourney Weaver. I know, right? She's a girl boss and a babe, but also... You know what I like about Sigourney Weaver and Alien, the first Alien film especially? I love that she's the first officer, which was cool, and I like how she follows protocol and says, no, we can't let him in, or we could all die from an alien disease. And it's the captain, unfortunately, Dallas, who overrides her in a bad decision. Or actually, technically it was Ash, but Dallas was also trying to override her. But I like that she was a tactical thinker right from the beginning of the film. Right from the beginning of the film, she's like, uh-oh, this isn't a smart decision. So yes, I am a huge fan of the character of Ellen Ripley is one of my all-time favorite characters, definitely. But also one of the best names in all fiction, Ellen Ripley. Fuck, I just love that name. It's just so, I love the full name too. Not Ripley is cool, but Ellen Ripley. There's just something about it. It's freaking fantastic. She's excellent in the second Aliens too. I love her in that movie. Just promise me one thing. If we go there, we're there to wipe them out. Not to bring them back, wipe them out. Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Totally. All right, Secret Invasion. Here's my first thought about this. Samuel L. Jackson should be ashamed. This is shameful, this series. You know, Nick Fury in Iron Man 1, in Avengers, in all the other in Avengers Age of Ultron, in Winter Soldier, Nick Fury is a badass. He is a man. He is a leader. He is a tactical thinker. He is a genius, super spy. He is an expert fighter. He is superhuman skilled. He is powerful. He never comes across on screen as doubting himself. He even has a voice of moral authority, even when he's wrong. You know, I'm reminded of that excellent scene in Winter Soldier where he's arguing with Captain America about freedom versus fear. And of course, Cap is right, but I do enjoy the push-pull of that dialogue. In this show, Secret Invasion, he is a whiny victim of racism. He is a sad old man. He is slow. He is snuck up on. Dude, he's Pedro Pascal all over again. He gets ambushed every freaking episode. This is not the same character, folks. My dear sailors and starnauts, he's not recognizable as Nick Fury in this. He is pathetic. And I cannot believe how much this show wants to whine and moan and whine about racism. Oh, there's so much... Good God. You would think that Russia is just wall-to-wall, the ultimate... It is pure KKK in that country. Oh, my God. I'm kidding. This stream is so demonetized. I don't know what's going to happen. I've said the word Nazi quite a bit today. Hey, Indiana Jones said it about 100 times more than I have so far. It's like every other scene, they have to mention the fact that he's a black man in Russia, and Russians don't like no black men. No, they sure don't. They don't. It's like Indiana Jones, they're Nazis because Nazis like to Nazi. And it's like in Secret Invasion, it's like Russians, they hate black people. Didn't you know there's a black man on the streets? Get him! And then I have to listen to Don Cheadle and Nick Fury whine together about being black men who've been held down their whole damn life. And sure, they're superheroes, but screw all that. That they've been held down by mediocre men. It's like, okay. let me play a little clip for you. Let me see if it doesn't have the whole piece that I want, but it's close enough. Oh, wait, sorry, wrong browser. My bad. Your captain had the wrong browser. Hang on. Close tabs. Keep the lag down there. Here we go. Come on, YouTube, don't fail me now. Hat tip, what is this, screen rant? Fu-Man Blue says, I need to bounce. See y'all next time. See you next time, Fu-Man Blue. Permission to disembark granted, sir. Thank you for coming. Tom, see you later.
The world is on the line. The enemy is 1,000,000 times more dangerous than Hydra, but they can only be vanquished by you, alone.
Hat tip clips king.
And you want me to make the power mean something by helping a brother out. But you should know better than most. The reason we wrestled this power from mediocre men who don't look like us was not simply to turn around and hand it to mediocre men who do.
First of all, I hope this gives you a taste of how circular the dialogue is in this show. It just circles and circles back on itself over, and it's like this is like Kamala Harris dialogue here. They say a lot. They say nothing by saying a lot. Throughout this whole show, it's super annoying, and you're meant to be like, oh, I'm watching a Jason Bourne type thriller because it's super hard to follow what they're saying because they're using a bunch of complicated language that's switching back on itself all the time. It's like, they're not actually saying anything. It's like, I'm going to unpack that sentence in just a minute, but I wanted to pause it to tell you that this is directly following him saying, look, let's face it, Nick Fury says, guys that look like us, we had to fight for every position we got over mediocre men. So what they are implying is that any white man that is in a position of power is just almost by default less talented and less skilled and less deserving than they are, but they're in that position because of my racism. Is this what Rhodey thinks of Tony Stark? Does Rhodey think that the reason he's not like, a general instead of a colonel is because of Tony Stark? Does he think that Tony Stark built the Iron Man suit because he's a mediocre man who's white and that's why he has the Iron Man suit? Is that what Rhodey thinks? I'm just curious. Why is it that we were able to get through 3 phases of this universe and we never had to have this conversation with these characters? For once in our lives, we could go to a theater. And by the way, I went to movies with people of different races and different walks of life, and we were all able to enjoy these films together. I have to say, I used to have conversations with people of all different races at my workplace about Marvel movies, and one of the things I enjoyed the most about it was how the subject of race was not in it. We could just talk about it. We could just talk about, oh, wasn't it cool when Nick Fury did this? Oh, wasn't it awesome when Cap did that? Wasn't it great when the Hulk tore apart that thing? And we were just fans. There was no color. There was none of this bullshit. We were just people enjoying our characters. We were building friendships over that. And it's like, this shit is ruining that. This shit is shooting a hole through the camaraderie that storytelling can actually create between people of different races. And that is why I say, honestly, with all due respect to Samuel L. Jackson and Don Cheadle, fuck you. You should be ashamed of yourself for this crap, for this garbage. Oh, you don't understand. You haven't walked in our shoes. Well, you know what? I haven't, and I don't care. Quite frankly, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this drivel. I'm sick of it. I don't care. Everyone in the world has problems. Everyone in the world has things that happen to them that are unfair. I am tired of hearing you losers whine about it. I've had it. And it's amazing to me. You are in this position, Mr. Cheadle and Mr. Jackson. You are in this position not because of mediocre men. You are not in this position because of how you look. You are in this position because of one thing and one thing only: fans. You are in this position because of fans of all walks of life who enjoyed, loved, and revered the characters you are pretending to be. And those fans put you in this position where you now are in the position of creating racial tension where none existed. And you are creating it between fans. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You should be ashamed. It's disgusting. This show turns my stomach. I go on.
Point of this power is to be uncompromising, to be unsparing, to be able to sit across from a man we greatly admire, with whom we share an entire professional, personal, ancestral history with, and to tell him without any reservation.
This is incredible to me. So he's saying, I'll run it back because this long-winded sentence has a point. Don Cheadle is saying the honor and the respect and the ancestral history that you and I share. These characters have never had a conversation, by the way. Never. This is the first time these two characters have ever met in a scene. I know that because this dumb Easter egg hunter I was watching on YouTube pointed this out. It's like, does a shared ancestral history, is that what makes Tony Stark Rhodey's friend? Why are Rhodey and Tony Stark able to be friends? Why do they have this family connection, this brotherhood between them? There is never any discussion of any of this crap. Who is Nick Fury to Rhodey? Nick Fury is no one to Rhodey. That's why I find this dialogue so offensive. Tony Stark will always be more to Rhodey, and Rhodey more to Tony Stark than Nick Fury would ever be to either of them.
History with, and to tell him without any reservation that he's fired. That's what this moment right here, right now is about, Nick.
He said you to fire me?
Nobody sent me. I volunteered. And not to put too fine a point on this.
This is this entire show, by the way. It is people sitting at bars drinking while Nick Fury gets browbeaten. And nothing happens. This show is nothing happening. I was watching it and I'm like, what is happening in this show? Nothing. It's like, this isn't a spy show. It's not a superhero show. It's not an alien invasion show. What the hell is it? It's, these characters have nothing in common with the Avengers characters that I've become familiar with. Well, actually, the kind of snooty attitude. I've never liked Don Cheadle's portrayal of this character. I thought Terrence Howard was a much better Rhodey. He was more charismatic. He was more fun. He was more likable. There's something snotty about Don Cheadle as this character. There's like this chip on his shoulder. You can just sense it in his performance, and I've never liked it. Probably has a lot to do with the actor, quite frankly.
But that mess that you created in Moscow that resulted in getting one of our best people murdered, you earned all this smoke, brother.
Oh, God. Oh, the mess in Moscow. Oh, doesn't that just beat all? So they establish in the beginning of the first episode that the Skrull insurgents, are looking for they're looking for nuclear materials, and they're going to set off a dirty bomb in Moscow to set off World War III, because after the great nuclear cleansing, they will have a beautiful, idyllic, irradiated homeworld they can now live in now that we're gone. And I'm like, this is their plan? What? But putting that quite aside, their plan amounts to they detonate a couple of bombs that they are standing right next to. The bad guy in the first episode has the remote detonator in his hand, and he detonates it, and the bomb goes off 20 feet from him, and then another bomb 20 feet behind him, and then another bomb 20 feet on the other side. And Nick Fury also is in the middle of all this, and it's like, how am I supposed to take this seriously? If it's a bomb that kills people, why are they standing in the middle of all three bombs? It's like but even aside from that, now the whole thrust of the second episode is, oh no, America's going to war. America's going to war with Russia over one conventional bomb that was detonated in Moscow that may have come from an American. So essentially what they're saying is the Russians think Nick Fury set off the bomb. And because the Russians think Nick Fury did it, and Nick Fury is an American, don't you know? That means we're going to war. Well, I don't know if billions and billions of dollars sent to Ukraine to fight a proxy war against Russia isn't enough to start World War III. Do you really think a conventional bomb that may have come from an American who may or may not be on active duty in military service could start World War III? So this is the other thing. Spy thrillers are supposed to be cutting edge in terms of like there's, if usually you don't want like a sci-fi future story to be topical, you do want a spy thriller to be topical. A spy thriller should tap into the fears and anxieties of people in that time, right? And so the fact that they are suggesting that World War III with Russia could be started by a couple of conventional bombs going off in Moscow that do not have enough clear evidence to suggest that it was actually an American state action, right? If you're saying that could start World War III in the context of the real world where our current proxy war through Ukraine isn't yet starting World War III, then that means that they are behind the times. That means that this is not only not on the cutting edge, it's actually seems quite stupid. It's quite quaint. It's like, oh, well, that's cute. That's cute. Oh, a bomb went off in Moscow. Oh, and if they think a disgraced former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, which I thought S.H.I.E.L.D. was a global organization, not an American one. But anyway, if they think a disgraced ex-agent like Nick Fury may have done it because he's American, don't you know, we've got to go to war. Well, if you find that convincing, I can't help you.
Are you seriously under the impression that just because you stripped me of my titles, I relinquished my DNA?
Careful, Fury. And you wonder why you're out.
I'm Nick Fury. Even when I'm out, I'm in.
Wow, that was Shakespeare. Even when I'm out, I'm in. By the way, that is the most devastatingly effective he's been in this entire show. That little move he did where he they put in that convenient crunching sound effect so you're supposed to believe he just broke the guy's arm. It's like, these are supposed to be trained bodyguards, right? And with look at this guy. He doesn't even... If this were a Mission Impossible movie, this would have been a full-blown, like, action fight. But in this dumb show, he does, like, what... Oh, hell, that really hurt. Yeah, it reminds me of, like, Family Guy with Meg when she gets superpowers and it's, like, long nails and she scratches a guy. He's like, oh, ouch! Oh, well, I guess it didn't draw blood, but ouch, though. It's like, that's what this makes me think of. No, that's not it.
Fury.
Stripped me of my... That just because you stripped me of my titles...
Yeah, this is the move right here.
Move.
Are you seriously under the...
What can I do? Oh, I can't do anything. Oh, I can't do anything. This is so pathetic. Secret invasion. More like secret snore. Every scene in the show, Nick Fury is on his back foot. It is draining to watch. He's always behind the plot, and the plot is so boring and predictable. It's even worse because it's like he's a super spy. He should be thinking 3 steps ahead of the audience. He's behind the audience because I'm the audience, and I already know that what little is happening is pretty obvious to me. And so the fact that Nick Fury is taking so damn long to figure it all out is awful. He's always getting thrown into vans. I swear, he's been thrown into vans like 5 times already in 2 episodes. That's all the show is. The Last of Us was Pedro Pascal getting stabbed in the stomach from the side because he has no periphery, just like Rick Grimes in The Walking Dead, no periphery. This show is Nick Fury getting thrown into vans in Russia. That's all it is. This show is Nick Fury getting thrown into vans in Russia. That I'm not kidding you when I tell you that little move he just did, that was the most action Nick Fury has had in this whole 2 episodes so far. And there's a lot of try hard too. It's like, I'm Nick Fury. No, you're not, sir. I'm sorry, Sam. You ain't no Nick Fury. And then you've got Agent Falsworth, played by the Crown actress. What's her name? Olivia Colman. Oh God, this is how we love British villains, right? The British villain they still have to be good though. Like, for a British villain to be a great British villain, yes, the Britishness is helpful and the accent is helpful, but they have to actually be interesting. And so they seem to have forgotten that with Olivia Colman, because she's very British. She speaks the Queen's English and she loves to smile and say intellectual things. And that is the extent of her charisma as a character. And so there's this scene in which she is going to be torturing this guy for information, and they play it. It is a stone cold cliche. Intellectual English secret agent gleefully cuts off fingers while demanding answers, and the stubborn victim of this, he refuses. Oh, I'm not going to tell you nothing. Oh, well, isn't that quite fine? Well, I believe that you are. And she cuts off his fingers, and I'm supposed to be intimidated by this. I'm supposed to be like, oh, wow, what a stone cold bitch she is. And I'm like, this is Chat GPT script writing is what this is. I'm convinced that the reason the Writers, Guild, they're all out there on strike demanding they stop using AI, because they've been fucking using AI. That's why. Because I'm telling you what, these writers have been using AI. Oh, no, they know damn well what's going on. They're like, stop using AI. And we'll stop too. We promise. Samuel L. Jackson traded the Nick Fury of the Avengers for this. What an embarrassment. And then you've got Emilia Clarke playing Gaia, Talos' daughter. And in the first episode, she is a dyed-in-the-wool true believer. She'll murder women and children. She'll blow up Russia. No problem whatsoever. Screw the puny humans. I hate them all. I hate them. Episode 2, now she's a terrified Stockholm Syndrome captive of a cult who's now questioning everything the bad guy is doing, Gravik. And now she's sneaking around and looking at his private files and then quickly closing the computer and making up a lie when he comes into the room. What were you looking at? Nothing. I was just going over some reports. She's so terrified of... I'm like, how is this even the same character? In the first episode, she's a dyed-in-the-wool true believer cultist. And in this episode, she's like terrified and trying to escape, with no explanation for why. It's like suddenly she's got all this moral compunction about murdering humanity. Where did this come from? So this movie's garbage, and I've got the Samba TV numbers to prove it. Speaking, your captain's mind is moving faster than his mouth can carry him. Oh, and I have another delicious. I gotta show you this cope. You're gonna love this. Just loading it up here. I got a headline for you, and I got some copium. All right, cool. Keep that paused. Good. This from Cosmic Book News: Secret Invasion a bust. Second worst Marvel ratings on Disney+. Fans aren't tuning in to watch Samuel L. Jackson. Uh-oh. Continuing the trend, Secret Invasion looks to be another huge bust. As it is learned, the premiere episode suffers the second worst ratings for a Marvel show on Disney+. Can you guess what the worst is? Miss Marvel. This show is barely pulling in more viewers than Miss Marvel. Samba TV provided the following info. God bless Samba TV. God save Samba TV. This little company over there, they are like the only source for actual data from these corporate liars. You know, Disney, Netflix, they'll never tell the truth about their ratings numbers, and they don't have to. Why would they? But Samba TV over here, they're like, well, we're just looking at what our viewers are watching, and just God love them. So, Samba TV provided the info that only 994,000 households tuned in during the first 5 days to watch Secret Invasion. Now, that outpaced, just barely, Miss Marvel's premiere of 775,000. So just to put that in perspective, I think they have a list here. Oh, let's see. I think they had a list of the other Marvel shows. Okay, here we go. So these are the 5-day ratings for all of these shows, right? You got WandaVision had 1.6 million, okay? This is their ratings from Samba TV over the 5-day period following the premiere. So these are consistent, right? What they're measuring. WandaVision had 1.6 million. And then we had Falcon and the Winter Soldier, 1.8 million. Loki was the highest at 2.5 million. Then you had Hawkeye, 1.5. Moon Knight, 1.8. Miss Marvel, the lowest, 775,000. She-Hulk, 1.5 million. Secret Invasion, 994,000. The jig is up, folks. The party is over. They were coasting. You know, see, I mentioned earlier that, you know, Samuel L. Jackson and Don Cheadle and the writers of this piece of crap, this turd, they should be ashamed of themselves for what they're doing. Because, you know, and the reason I say it is not just because they're helping to tear apart the fandom and divide them along racial lines, which is ludicrous. It's insane. It's a superhero show. For God's sakes, can we have one thing in our society, just one, that we can all just enjoy no matter what our skin color is? No. Everything has to be a lecture now. It's not just that they're turning it into a lecture and dividing people. It's the fact that the only reason they are here is because they were coasting on how awesome the phase one and phase 2, and a little bit less so, but phase 3. Those 3 phases were purely about the characters. They were about the comics, the stories. They were about actors doing a job. They were about craftsmanship. They were about earning success. And because of all of that goodwill that they built up with the fans, the truly remarkable achievement that was the Phase 1 Marvel Cinematic Universe, it was remarkable what they built with that universe. And now that they have it all to coast on, they're coasting it right off a cliff. Now it is just another vehicle for their woke bullshit. Well, I am tired of it. I don't care. Call me whatever names you want. Claim whatever privilege you want. I don't care. It doesn't faze me anymore. And it shouldn't faze any of us. You know, we as Americans, as global citizens, from wherever we hail, whatever our skin color, our ancestry, we need to just stop with this nonsense. We can acknowledge problems where they exist. We can acknowledge issues, but this constant whining, it's boring. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear your sob story, okay? I'm sorry that the world, it doesn't care about how hard you've had it, but it doesn't. It just doesn't. Nobody cares how hard anyone has had it, quite frankly, except your family, so treat them well. The things that are most valuable in life we got for free, which are our health, our family, whatever advantages we were born with, be grateful for them. We all have problems. And something that helps lighten the load, something that helps take some of those problems off our shoulders is when we can watch a movie together, is when we can watch sports, as a country and just enjoy it, no matter where our ancestors originally came from. We can all come together and enjoy a sport and not think about this shit for a while. It's like that's what Marvel was doing for us for 3 whole phases, and that party is over. And the ratings are a reflection of that. Nobody wants to watch superheroes to be lectured, to be made to feel worse. When Don Cheadle says, mediocre white men are the people we're in competition with, and we're so brilliant and we're so great. You are implying that the morality and the heroism of Steve Rogers is somehow unearned. You are implying that Tony Stark, the genius inventor, somehow is less deserving of his success. You are implying that all these characters that we love, there is a taint on them. There is a shadow over them. And you know what it does? It makes all of us feel heavier, because it makes some of us feel more like victims and more put upon, and it makes others of us feel like, oh, gee, well, we're guilty oppressors. And it's like, and it makes us have to have this conversation. We can't be talking about, oh, wasn't it so cool when, Black Panther said this line about the world is not done with you yet? Wasn't it so cool when Tony Stark had to fight Captain America because of the death of his parents? We can't have those conversations anymore. No, now we have to be talking about, the train ride up to Illinois and how Nick Fury had to ride in the colored car. Eating fried chicken, which he says it in the episode. We would eat that fried chicken. He says it. I'm like, what? I'm so confused. I'm so confused by, like, I thought that's supposed to be a stereotype. We're not supposed to have that in our characters. Anyway, who cares? I don't care. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. This show is dog shit. It is so boring. I can't even it's like Mandalorian was boring for sure, but it was also bafflingly stupid. That one of the most low IQ scripts I've ever seen. This show, it's paint drying, folks. And, say one thing for Andor. Andor had an interesting spy thriller dynamic going on. It was too long and it was badly paced, but it did have an interesting dynamic of like the Imperial intelligence having to ferret out the rebels, and Stellan Skarsgård having to play two roles. Oh, he's a socialite antiquities dealer by day, and then he moonlights as a dastardly spy. That was cool. This show has none of that. So I'm just going to play this little clip here because I find this amusing, Oh, wait, I've done it again. Oh, Mr. Magoo, you've done it again. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for.
Over to the government. But Nando made some pretty good points about this scene. One, what did Rhodey do with the suit between the time he took it and the next morning when he...
So hat tip screen crush. So this guy, he's hunting for Easter eggs, folks, don't you know? Let me see if I can find the really juicy one here. I marvel at how much fascination he's managed to muster for this show. Come on, internets, don't fail me now. It's buffering. I've got the pinwheel of death.
Secret Invasion is the first time we've seen Rhodey and Fury share the screen. Sure, they were both at Tony's funeral and the Battle of Sokovia, but still, we've never seen them actually speak or interact with one another until now. So, for all we know, their relationship may have always been adversarial. Rhodey has always had trouble coloring outside the lines in his government role.
As he does not operate within any definable branch of government, Iron Man presents a potential threat to the security of both the nation and to her interests.
And by the way, that's another clue right there. Right at the top of this movie, Rhodey basically turns on Tony and says that the government should have the armor. I'll talk about why a little bit later though. The point is that Rhodey is a rule follower who colors inside the lines. Whereas on the other hand, Nick Fury has always had trouble coloring inside the lines.
I recognize the council has made a decision, but given that it's a stupid-ass decision, I've elected to ignore it.
So, the stark difference in the way Rhodey and Fury conduct themselves while on the job could be an existing rift that we've just never seen. But I still think he's a Skrull. Rhodey being a Skrull would be an even bigger gut punch in the Everett Ross reveal in episode 1.
No.
Now, whether Ross has recently been replaced by a Skrull or has been one the whole time is yet to be seen. Now, we've actually got a great video up on the channel.
Oh my God. I listen to this guy and I'm like, you would want that? You would want that? You would want it to be revealed that Martin Freeman's character was... I don't even know that that's what the show revealed. I don't agree that's what it revealed. I have no freaking clue what that stupid cold open revealed or did not reveal. It was Martin Freeman running around. He dies. He turns out to be a Skrull. That tells me literally nothing. That tells me nothing about how long he is a Skrull. For all I know, the real one is out there still, and he's doing... They just don't even address it. Honestly, they haven't even referenced his character since that first scene. So, like, but even so. So you would want him to be revealed. This guy basically is saying he thinks that Rhodey has been a Skrull for a long time, possibly right back to the point where he got the War Machine suit. And I'm thinking, you idiot, you would want this? You would want this kind of a retcon?
Dissecting how long Ross has been a Skrull, so be sure to check that one out. Anyways, Rhodey has been around since the beginning. He was there for 3 Thanos fights, the time heist, the death of Tony Stark. He participated in debates over the Sokovia Accords, the final battle with Ultron, and he was even there for this clip.
I am Iron Man.
Who's that guy? That's not Don Cheadle.
Well, remember, buddy, in the first Iron Man movie, Rhodey was played by Terrence Howard, not Don Cheadle.
All right.
Don Cheadle came in as Rhodey in Iron Man 2.
Oh yeah, the recasting thing.
Right, and we have a fun theory about how they could retcon this recasting into the MCU with a little help from our old friend Kevin.
I possess the most advanced
oh my God,
in the world.
You are not
first, let's
serious.
Go back and look at all the signs over the years that Rhodey has actually been a Skrull.
He's digging through the fourth wall breaking Kevin Robot from She-Hulk to build his case
all along.
What? But why were the Skrulls want to replace Rhodey years ago? Like even before he was a superhero?
All right, well, let's go through the history about what we really know about Colonel James Rhodes, aka War Machine, aka Iron Patriot, aka Rhodey. It's possible that Rhodey has been a Skrull since even before Iron Man 2. You see, there's a possibility that Rhodey might have been a Skrull the first moment we met him.
That is, without a doubt, one of the most depressing ideas I've ever heard. I can't even believe this. Look how chipper and happy he is as he unpacks. Oh, well, it's possible that Rhodey has been a Skrull since Iron Man 2. Who would want that, sir? What are you talking about? That would be horrible. But the fact that he's so excited about this show is even worse, frankly. That we should not make fun of the handicapped.
Tony and Rhodey met in college when they were both attending MIT. Now, at that point, the Skrulls hadn't even arrived on Earth yet, so he couldn't have been a Skrull when he was in college. But Tony knew Rhodey from school, and that's when they...
Oh, please. One line of dialogue is all they would need to retcon that. Oh, we Skrulls have been here for 10,000 years. Oh, okay. And then this guy, he go running to the camera to that. Oh, well, now that the most recent shit that they shoveled at us shows that the Skrulls have been here longer than I thought. Well, then that means the whole damn MCU could be Skrulls for all I know. Isn't that cool?
Became good friends. And maybe after college, while Tony was busy taking over as CEO for Stark Industries.
I will give him credit, though. This is a very clever use of repurposing actually good movies to make new content out of them.
And Rhodey was climbing the ranks in the military, they probably went a while without seeing each other. This would have been the perfect time for Rhodey to get swapped out by a Skrull. The Skrulls would see that Rhodes, an MIT graduate, would have a sterling career in the Air Force, so they would want to plant him in place for the long haul. But I think it's more likely that they would have replaced him to have an agent close to Tony Stark.
Jeez. All right, I'm not going to go through any more of this. He opens this up by saying that his theory about why Rhodey fires Nick Fury in that scene I just showed you, his theory about this is that, there's all these clues that Rhodey is a Skrull. Now, I wouldn't put it past this dumb show for that to be absolutely true. That Rhodey, in that scene at least, is a Skrull. And I think, number one, who cares? It's like who cares? I don't care whether he's a Skrull or he isn't. But even if he is, so what? It's still circular dialogue. It's still bullshit. You're still racializing for no reason whatsoever the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is still a basic bitch, pathetic, anemic attempt at spy thriller drama. It is an old over-the-hill Nick Fury drinking and being browbeaten and fired in every freaking scene. So who the hell cares whether he's a Skrull or not? It's like, but then this guy is saying, oh no, he was a Skrull when he got the War Machine suit. Wouldn't that be cool? Oh my God, just more content. Do you actually think this guy actually likes Marvel? Seriously, Do you think this guy actually likes this stuff? I don't. I think this guy probably is just making YouTube content, and he's found a really good way of like just taking clips of actually good movies like Iron Man, and then recutting them with commentary, with dumb fan theories based on new content that's trending, so he can just have content. Like, and so to him, all content is created equal. All content is the same to his eyes. It doesn't matter whether it's Iron Man 1, one of the greatest superhero films of all time. You know, to this guy, The Dark Knight is on equal footing with Batman and Robin. Like, to this guy, if The Dark Knight had come out and then like a few years later a Batman and Robin kind of piece of shit had come out, he would be the one going and looking 10 Easter eggs that prove that George Clooney's Batman is in the same universe as Christian Bale's because blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, in what world are these two things, in what world are they on any kind of equal footing? Like, so this is what tells me that I don't think he's actually a fan. Because if he were a fan, at some point, he'd have to be like, God, that, you know, if this were true, that Rhodey was a Skrull, it would mean that the entire MCU sucked. So I'm going to stop making these stupid videos. That would be, he'd have to have that conclusion. Well, I finished Silo. I did finish Silo. And I have to say that they ended with a hook that gives it some steam for future seasons. They completely ruined it with basically the main character, spoiler alert, not a big spoiler. She falls from like a 10-story drop onto some trash, which is made of jagged bits of metal and concrete and other refuse. You know, that just breaks falls. See, that's the new trope now. If you fall, there is no height restriction. You can fall from any height with zero fall damage or minimal fall damage as long as you land on trash, no matter what the trash is made of. And so this character, Sarah Ferguson's character, falls down this shaft, this garbage chute shaft, onto a pile of trash. And in the next scene, she's waking up with she's like, oh man, that was kind of got a hangover. No broken bones, no internal bleeding, not even a concussion. She's fine. And I'm like, you know, what the hell? You know, I'm so tired. I'm trying to bring you one show that I can recommend to you, my dear sailors and star nuts. I am trying to find one show that I enjoy watching. And, you know, I have to say, Silo, for all of its flaws, had more to it than most sci-fi shows I've seen lately. Who cares? Like, who cares? It's definitely better character work than almost anything out there, better world building. Congratulations. It's based on a novel. It's based on a best-selling novel, obviously written by someone with more talent. I haven't read the book. I don't know if the book has these flaws. I'm willing to bet the novel is better. So I probably will have to read Wool or not. I don't know. So I'm really sorry. I wish I could report. You know, also Black Mirror. Black Mirror had a couple episodes come out, and there was kind of an interesting one, and it's basically takes place in the 1960s. It's called Beyond the Sea. And it stars Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, if you remember Jesse from Breaking Bad, and Josh Hartnett has come out of retirement for a show. And it's a short story about astronauts in 1969 on a long-distance space mission, and they are able to temporarily download themselves into robots on Earth so they can continue living their life on Earth. And then they can sort of their real bodies are up in space, and they can go back to these bodies and resume their mission. Now, Black Mirror is usually a show about the future. It's usually a show about where we're headed. So I find it odd that it's now, for whatever reason, going back in time and reimagining history in ways that are even more fictional. And I'm not sure what they're driving at here, because it's like, okay, this is an alternate 1969 where astronauts on a long distance mission that never happened are able to download into robot bodies that don't exist and are likely to not exist ever. What is the purpose of that? I don't know. I don't know what the purpose of that is. That being said, it's a pretty interesting episode. It got a little boring at parts, but then it builds to an ending that's pretty bananas insane. Now, here's what I have to say about the show. Man, is this show bleak. This show is bleak. Of all the grimdark shit, I kind of marvel at how Black Mirror is able to consistently one-up itself as like this show finds the dark underneath the dark. Because I'll tell you, this episode I'm referring to, Beyond the Sea, in the first act of the episode, something so horrible and soul-crushing happens in this episode, you almost can't even believe it as you're watching it. You just can't even believe it. It's one of those things that's so horrific you can't look away. And I'm like, it's kind of incredible how dark it is. They one-up it by the end of the episode. By the end of the episode, something so much worse happens, you can't even believe it. And I'm like, that takes some skill. This is a show with a level of nihilism I don't think there's anything to match it, quite frankly. So if you are looking for the kind of nihilism that will give you not exactly nightmares, but just unsettling dreams for a couple of days and just leave you feeling with just a general feeling of unease you can't explain, watch Black Mirror. It's a good one for that. I'm watching another episode of it and I'm like, oh man, this one's... Now, it is also woke as hell, this show. It's like some of the episodes are so woke, they're unwatchable. I mean, so woke, they are absolutely unwatchable, and I just reminded myself of a headline I forgot to show you. I totally forgot this. All right, we're going to circle back to Secret Invasion, because Okay, yeah, all right. So, yep, more on Secret Invasion coming in just a second, but I have to finish my thought on Black Mirror. Tom says, ooh, that was a good episode. Yeah, you know the one. You know what I'm talking about. You know that Beyond the Sea... Actually, I will say this. It might be the best episode of Black Mirror. Second best. It's the second best episode of Black Mirror, I think, ever. I personally think. Probably the most interesting. I wonder if you can guess what my favorite episode of the show is. But if I gave you a hint, it would give it away, because it's the only episode that's in black and white that I'm aware of. So yes, it's the only episode in black and white. That is my favorite episode that I know of, because I haven't seen them all. But it's called Metalhead. That is my favorite episode of Black Mirror, and it is the most dire, depressing warning of the future you can possibly imagine. And I just think, this just reinforces why I am working on Galaxyborn. This is why I am working on a new science fiction universe, because it's fine. I'm fine with dystopia. I'm fine with grimdark. It has its place. I'm not Matt Walsh over here trying to lecture you. I'm not, RFK telling you that video games are bad and everything needs to be happy clappy. I'm just saying, look, does everything have to be this bleak? Like everything? So I watch Black Mirror and I just think these are the stories that wokies love. These are the stories wokies love, where everyone's getting murdered, everyone is losing everything, people are shitheads to each other. I mean shitheads to each other. Humanity has no redeeming value in this show. Like, humanity is stone cold evil. And it's like, Avatar suffers from this. In Avatar, humanity is stone cold evil. And Avatar posits a world in which humans are so irredeemably greedy and full of avarice and conquest and just bloodthirst that there's no helping them, it actually conflicts with the world of Pandora, because the world of Pandora posits a world in which multiple different tribes of a species, a Stone Age species, are able to be in harmony with nature and each other. They're warlike, and yet they're never at war with each other. They are always in tune with nature, and they worship it, and it's like, so on the one hand, you have the Na'vi, which are moral and praiseworthy beyond reproach. They don't even war with each other, right? They live in a utopia. They live in a harmony with the forest. And it's like, on the other hand, humans are irredeemable and evil. But wait. Didn't humans descend from a similar tribal Stone Age civilization that was supposedly in harmony with nature? I mean, I really feel like Avatar is trying to have it both ways. It's trying to suggest that there is a natural instinct towards conquest and greed that is irredeemable, and at the same time suggest there is a natural instinct to harmony and homeostasis with nature. And I think that this cognitive dissonance of these films is partly why they have no cultural footprint. They're bleak, they're dismal. Nobody wants to watch a movie forever and ever that tells us how evil humanity is. You know, Avatar is a 3-hour Black Mirror episode. Do you realize that? Think about this for a second. This is why Avatar has no cultural footprint. It is a 3-hour, very beautiful Black Mirror episode. Think about it. I'm onto something with this. Your captain has just uncovered pay dirt. All right, now try this headline. This is from Onika the Traveler, a blog entry I just happened upon because I got curious. You know, every other scene in Secret Invasion, it is implied that Russians are they have got gangs of thugs just looking to round up all the black people. They say, no one's ever seen a black person in Russia before. Oh my God. Oh my God. Nick Fury, are you crazy? Are you insane? It's Russia. You can't be black and in Russia at the same time. It's not possible. That every scene, folks, every scene. So I just got curious. I'm like, well, what do I actually know about racism in Russia? I don't actually know anything, I guess. I've never been to Russia. Maybe it is. Maybe it is the most racist place on earth. Just like Disney is the happiest place on earth, Russia's the most racist place on earth, I guess. So I just randomly found this blog post. Are Russians racist towards black people? My Experience by Onika Raymond. My experience is traveling as a black woman in Russia. And she basically is just talking about what it was like. And she a lot of preamble here. And she gets to her questions that she gets a lot of the time. Is it true that Russians are racist toward black people? Did you suffer any racial discrimination in Russia? What was your experience in Russia traveling as a black woman? In this post, she says, I'm going to share my experiences. She actually gives some really good historical context. African-descended people in Russia. In order to understand why this question pops up so much, it's necessary to understand the history of African-descended people in Russia and former Soviet republics. In my research on the web, this article, I believe, is from 2020, I want to say, I was surprised to discover that black folks have long had a presence in what was known as the USSR, according to this article. Hundreds of African Americans traveled to the region between 1920 and 1930 in an attempt to make a better life for themselves, as well as to escape the economic strife and racial persecution they faced in the USA. Blacks from the African continent weren't far behind. This article explains that they relocated to the Soviet Union in large numbers, recruited by officials promising a free university education. The social climate for black people at that time was thus good, with skilled black laborers and professionals often receiving red carpet treatment in the form of enviable salaries and subsidized housing. But this contrasts sharply. There were a lot of, the Black Panthers and other groups there's a lot of communism in those groups. And, while I don't condone it, I understand it. Because from their perspective, communism was promising a society where all people were equal. And it's like, I can understand the lure of that lie. But that was the promise. But this contrast, she goes on, this contrasts sharply with recent depictions of race relations in Russia. A quick Google search reveals articles about hostility against blacks across the country, which is at its best has included verbal abuse, like the racial epithets hurled at soccer players by fans during matches, and at its worst has culminated in outright physical violence during games on Russian soil. So, what was her experience? The short version. I had no issues at all during my time in Moscow and St. Petersburg. In fact, I was treated exceptionally well. I got a lot of love from local people, and this was shocking to me based on what I'd heard and read about race relations in Russia. So you can see a picture over there. The long version. I felt like I was received with open arms during my stay. I got some curious looks, but none of the long, laser-focused stares I've encountered in many parts of Asia. People were extremely polite, helpful, and cordial, especially in Moscow, which is decidedly the most Russian of the two cities. St. Petersburg looks and feels very Western European. I also found it to be way more touristy and easy to navigate, as English, as opposed to just Russian language, is written and spoken far more widely than in Moscow. She's talking about St. Petersburg there. Here are some examples of the encounters I had in Moscow that stuck out to me the most. Russian people, unsolicited, approached us, her and her husband, on the street, on the subway, to offer help with getting around. Moscow's subway can be daunting, as all the signage is in Cyrillic alphabet, and most guidebooks and maps have the station's names written in Roman characters. At times, we struggled, but never had difficulty receiving assistance. On one occasion, seeing the look of puzzlement on our faces, a gentleman stopped and, despite his halting English, took 5 minutes to point us in the right direction. Another experience, the elderly lady in the subway car who smiled at me and patted the seat adjacent, beseeching me to sit down beside her. The security guard at the Europesky Mall, who, upon discovering I was from Canada, engaged us in an animated discussion about his love for my country. He once lived and worked in Nova Scotia. The young man in the Adidas shoe store who treated me with care and provided me with exceptional service. He thanked me for visiting his country and implored me to explore more of it. He also lamented the fact that Russians have a reputation the world over for being bad people. The older man in the same shoe store who came from the other end of the shop to tell me which shoes to buy. Lady, the black one better, he said. You need shoes to run from Russian man. Oh, no. I don't know. They might be it's a little worried. These are a few anecdotal examples that show why I found my experience in Russia to be extremely pleasant overall. In no way did I ever feel myself to be discriminated against because of my race. However, please note that these are my personal experiences and that there are a variety of factors that may or may not have impacted how I was treated. What are they? Read on. Why you should perhaps take my assessment with a large grain of salt. I am a black woman, not a black man. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge this. Black women that travel are less of a perceived threat than black men. Blame mass media who seem hell-bent on propagating the idea that black men are imposing, dangerous, and criminal. And while I share her critique of the media, I will say, it's like watch any rap video. Come on. You can't tell me that rap artists aren't presenting that image themselves. And, in the same way that Italian tough guys presented the image of being kind of mafiosos all the time. It's like they act that way. They want I'm speaking of the Italians here. They want that reputation for toughness. It's like you can't complain about something that if you're presenting that image, it's not just the media, but anyway, I digress. She goes on to say, I'm petite and I appear non-threatening. At 5'3" and 130 pounds, I'm small. I constitute no physical threat, and I'm also very smiley. My countenance oozes positivity, and that puts most people at ease. By the way, my earlier comments, I'm not saying it's a good thing that people have stereotypes. I'm just saying. It's like what, Anyway, enough on that. She goes on to say, I only went to Moscow and St. Petersburg. These cities are very cosmopolitan. Though they are not on the same level as London, Paris, or Rome, they get many visitors yearly. Russians in these cities are well educated and used to both seeing and interacting with foreign visitors. Had I ventured off the beaten path to more rural cities, my experience might have been different. I spent 90% of my time in the company of a white man. My husband is Caucasian, and though he hails from Germany, was often mistaken as a local. It would be reckless to not acknowledge that being in his presence the vast majority of the time possibly shielded me from untoward reactions. That being said, aware of this, I made sure to spend 2 afternoons exploring on my own. Strangely enough, I found people treated me way more nicely when I was by myself. See my encounter above in the shoe store. So the shoe store example came from when she was just hanging out by herself. She says, I speak American English and present as a distinctly North American person. Again, it's important to acknowledge that my Americanness, she's Canadian, so she's saying she looks and sounds American. Blue passport and American physical aspect provide a layer of security, even in places that are known for being racist, prejudicial, and or discriminatory. My voice and my clothing scream Western tourist, and in many places, this is an advantage. Don't believe the hype. In many countries, Americans are put on a pedestal and given preferential treatment. So is Russia racist against black people? Should they travel there? This is a question I still find difficult to answer. My experience was extremely positive, but there are so many factors that it's difficult to provide a definitive response that would apply to all. Personally, I would and will return. The architecture is stunning, the history and culture immersive, the food divine. However, on my next visit, I would like to venture outside of the main cities and explore elsewhere. Now, I read through the comments on this article, and there's a lot of comments that kind of argue with her a little bit, not in a hostile way, but they say, yeah, no, I think this bad thing happened. I've seen this bad thing happen. But there was one comment that stood out to me that I just want to point out. And it's this one right here. So it started from, there was this comment. I want to say it was this one. Yeah, so there's this guy who said, most of blacks in Russia are suspected, there's a comment on her article, are suspected to be spies for CIA and FBI in Tanzania. One of the former students in Russia called Dr. Luashika was injected with something in his body by Russians who thought he might be a spy. He lost all his money he had in Russian properties, escaping trouble. Though USA helped him to go to Tanzania, it's written in broken English, so I'm not sure exactly what he's saying here. But according to his explanation, said he was hijacked by his fellow staffs and his company, kidnapped to an unknown area. I have no idea what this guy's on about. But then someone said, was this even real? And, someone's like, says, that doesn't sound real to me. And then you get this comment here, which I thought was really interesting. The thing, so what they're referring to is like going to rural areas. Like, are rural areas going to be more racist or not? And this person says, the thing is not of being a colored person. In smaller cities, people may be hostile to you just for being a foreigner, even though you're from Moscow, for example. It's not about the color. It's about the wealth of the smaller cities. They hate you as a person with possibilities they don't have. The color of the skin just gives a good marker that you are not local. Again, they can hate all non-locals, even other Russians. It's not about the skin color. Now, this I found fascinating because this actually, I think, applies to America. Because the narrative goes that if you go to the deep south, you're going to meet a bunch of Hayseed hicks, and they don't like your kind not one bit. And it's like, I think this is at least partially a total myth, because what you're really talking about is, look, if some socialite, snobby white dude from Seattle goes traipsing around, the deep south and is whining about, it's like, oh, gee, well, I can't find a Bevmo anywhere. Oh, where am I going to get a good bottle of wine? It's like, I'm sorry, but the locals, and is being snotty to all the waiters, like, oh, you call this Eggs Benedict? This is atrocious. Your diner should be put out of business, I dare say. Because in Seattle, we know how to make a good cup of coffee. We do. It's like, yeah, you're right. The locals are going to think you're a snotty little urban elite, and they're not going to like you. And they're going to be like, you know what? You could just go right back to your city, and you can live with your homeless and your needles in the street, and we'll just keep our country the way it is over here in Missouri. Thank you very much. And that does not matter if you're white or not. I'm sure that people of any race who are locals are going to feel that way about outsiders. That's called humanity. Our tribalism manifests in various different ways. Sometimes it's just a matter of, you're not a local, you're acting kind of snotty, I don't like you. Has nothing to do with the skin color necessarily. But if you are someone of a darker skin color, and you have been raised your whole life to be told there's a racist hiding behind every bush and my white supremacy everywhere, and everything is fascist this and racist that, and you go and you're whining about how this diner coffee doesn't taste like Seattle's best roast that I get in my home city, and you get a sideways glance, you're gonna be like, oh gee, look at all the racists here. And this is my point. It's like, is it the chicken or is it the egg? Right? And I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. I am saying this observation about the fact that if you're a black person, you go outside of Moscow, you go to some rural town, and everyone's giving you the stink eye. Is it because you're black, or is it because you are obviously from another country, you're from a richer country, and they resent it? And they're like, what are you doing here? We live in a dirt poor farming community, and you're over here snapping pictures with your iPhone. What do you want? And this is the problem with this conversation between Nick Fury and Rhodey. It's like you are reading into things that don't exist or that may or may not exist. And this show's Secret Invasion, I think, is absolutely slanderous of the average Russian. I seriously do. Nick Fury is walking around downtown Moscow in tourist areas. He is an American speaking American English. He is also a spy. He has been trained in other cultures, in other ways of blending in. It is absurd that there is some kind of crazy Russian white supremacist witch hunt just looking for anyone that is black. It's ridiculous. So I just think that this show, for just honestly no reason, is just completely maligning Russian people as these foaming at the mouth racists, and it's despicable. And I reiterate what I said at the beginning. You know, it's one thing to write a bad show. It's one thing to be woke. Honestly, this goes beyond pathetic for me. Samuel L. Jackson should be ashamed. Just ashamed of this weird, boring, awful show that he's taking part in. He has disgraced his own character. He was a strong, powerful leader in the Avengers, and now he is a loser, old, whiny bitch. And that is why Secret Invasion can just go pound sand, quite frankly. Yeah, maybe I'll watch more. I don't know. Maybe I'll just do more Stargate for you instead. So anyway, Tom says the Closer was the YouTube channel. The Closer Look did a good video on the simplistic, lazy morality of Avatar. You know, I don't doubt it. That's a good recommendation. It is. That is exactly what it is with Avatar. It's lazy morality. You know, I really don't mind the idea of a moral meditation on, you know, have humans lost ourselves in our quest for greed and industrialization? Have we killed our own spirit? You know, there's something there, but what that story requires is a debate. It requires a debate that is still unsettled. You know, why is it that the Na'vi can't persuade humanity? Why is it that like almost none of humanity are interested in anything that the Na'vi have to offer culturally? Why is it that these advanced humans are so foaming at the mouth with conquest? Why is it that they don't, even if they literally just need to take over the land, okay? They'll just take that as read. Aren't some of them just curious about artifacts? Don't some of them like the natural beauty? You know, don't some of them think, gee, we need to take over the country, but it would be nice to keep the Na'vi around in like some preserves so we can still look at them because they're nice to look at. We enjoy the trees. The trees are nice. No, these humans hate nature. They hate it. It's like they're like, oh, get away from me. Ew, a tree. I swear to God. And then it's like the Na'vi, right? There's nothing that the humans can offer the Na'vi. There's nothing the Na'vi can offer the humans. And I find that not to be authentic. I find that not to be very convincing because, you know, quite frankly, An actual reading of history is that when Stone Age cultures met more advanced cultures, when European settlers met Native Americans in America, immediately there was a trade that began to happen. Native Americans had things that settlers needed. Often that was in the form of land, but sometimes it was in the form of knowledge, how to actually survive. And Native Americans wanted things from the Europeans that they didn't have, such as, steel tools, such as clothing that they weren't able to make, that they liked. There were different things that the Europeans had they wanted. So it's not even an accurate portrayal. It's not even an accurate analog to Europeans meeting Native Americans is Avatar. So I would not mind a nuanced debate about when will the cold, dead heart of humanity be rekindled by the Na'vi? When will the Na'vi learn how to communicate with the humans in a way that finds a common ground? That would be an interesting story to tell. Something else, I would like to see in Avatar. I'd like to learn something about Earth. Quite frankly, I would like to learn something about Earth. I learn nothing about Earth in these movies. Two movies now. Two. I have no answer for why do they want the unobtainium? Why is that so important? What's it like on Earth? The only answer we get is one line of dialogue. There's no green there. Okay, what does that mean? Like literally? Come on. It wouldn't have a breathable atmosphere if there was no green. Earth is dying. Why? We have to move everyone to Pandora. How? How will this be accomplished? You can't breathe their air. If you can't breathe their air, why not move to some other planet? If your plan is to burn all the forest to the ground, incinerate all the forest and turn it into a blackened hellscape and just build over it with industrial cities, with artificial habitats, why not just live on Mars? Why? What do you need Pandora for? This is what frustrates me about Avatar. It has no moral complexity. James Cameron strikes me as a very uncurious writer. When I write stories, I'm curious about things. What would it have been like to live in that time? What would it be like to fight in an actual naval battle? What would it be like to live in a future where we can talk to aliens? How would we get there? James Cameron, Avatar does have a lot of technological lore behind it, but he doesn't explore any of it on screen. Why? There's something odd about that to me, quite frankly. I almost feel like Avatar is a vehicle for James Cameron to have fun with his favorite toys and his favorite tropes, but he's not really interested in telling a tale. He's not really interested in having a debate about moral themes and moral quandaries. It is very frustrating, I have to admit. He's created such a nuanced and interesting world that I love to explore, but he doesn't seem to want to explore it. I want to explore this world, and I want to explore why humanity has become so soulless. He doesn't seem to be very interested in that, and my theory is that it's because that's what he thinks of humanity. I mean, that's my theory. I think this is typical of Hollywood writers. I think it's typical of the Black Mirror writers. It's just typical of the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny writers. It's just typical. They don't think of humanity as having any redeeming qualities. They think of us on a slow death march to Armageddon, and yet these are the Ukraine people. Something about this does not add up to me. Why do you think humanity is so irredeemable, and yet you are now in the position of defending war? I'm curious about this. I'm very curious about this. Why is it that my distaste and detest, the amount of disgust I have for Kurtzman Trek, why is it that I have to hear the Kurtzman Trek dweebs tell me that I don't understand Star Trek, yet they're clapping for this dystopian nightmare? They're the ones that seem to think that the most interesting sci-fi is the sci-fi where there's no future for humanity, everything gets worse. I'm the one that is saying, I miss Star Trek The Next Generation, when the story was about how humans made mistakes, but we learned from them. I just think there is a giant missed opportunity with Avatar. There's just such a giant missed opportunity. There is so much interesting lore, but the reason I think there's a problem with it is that James Cameron is not interested in a resolution where there's peace between the Na'vi and humanity. I don't think he wants that. I don't know if this story is building towards the Na'vi are going to beat humanity. I don't see how that's possible. But I also don't get the sense that we're building a bridge to humanity either. So it's very frustrating. And I know you probably didn't tune into the live stream this week to hear about Avatar, but you did. All right, my dear friends. Well, it has been good spending a Sunday evening with you. I hope your dear Captain Garrett has entertained you. Please do leave a like or a subscribe. Share the stream with your friends. And I am also Swords and Starships at swordsandstarships.locals.com. And I do thank you. If you were lurking, watching, following, listening, in whatever capacity, you, my dear crew, my dear sailors and starnauts, I salute you. Another great episode of the Captain's Cast. So until next time, I am Captain Garrett, and I am telling you, I will see you out there.